Look, I was having some issues for a second. I'm here. Let me pan my camera or tilt it a little. I mean, all right. We'll work on this a little bit longer. Click longer. I was watching something. I think. This was interesting. Damn it.
Child porn allegations, and all this coming to light after a months-long investigation.
Yes.
I'm deep in my little sneaky little tips and tricks and hints and whatever you want to call it.
This is Scandal, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Sierra Gillespie. Brace yourself, Scandal Squad. Today's topic is rough, to say the least. We've got an influencer of sorts, a pretty famous YouTuber known for crafts and holiday celebrations, now charged with child porn allegations. And that's not even the worst of it. Per the charges, some of the alleged child porn involved children younger than the age of 12. It doesn't get much worse than that. Today's scandal takes us to Prospect, Kentucky, a city right on the border of southern Indiana. And that's where we find today's defendant, 39-year-old Michael David Booth. If you don't recognize that name, maybe you know him by his online internet personality, Mr. Crafty Pants. And he made a lot of content like this.
Yeah, I'm so freaking pumped because I just dropped 5 new DTF transfer collections. Direct to film transfer collections. I'm like so freaking excited. Hey Cole, how's it going? Here is one of them right here. These are curated. Most of them are curated. I did create some of them, some of the collections. Some of them are curated. This is one of the curated. I just honestly think that's hilarious. I don't know if that's backwards.
Mr. Crafty Pants boasts nearly 50,000 followers on Instagram, 203,000 followers on Facebook, and in his heyday, Mr. Crafty Pants had nearly 600,000 subscribers on YouTube. But if you go to his YouTube page right now, you'd find this: nothing. It says this account has been terminated for a violation of YouTube's terms of services. And I'm just guessing that's based on the allegations against Mr. Crafty Pants himself. According to local Kentucky TV station WDRB, the investigation into Mr. Crafty Pants dates back to August of this year. And that's when law enforcement received a tip from Kik, a messaging and chat app. Now, Kik is an app that allows you to chat with your friends, family, whoever, and it doesn't require you to have a phone number in order to sign up. It's not meant for illegal activity, but honestly, it's become pretty popular with all of that, including child porn because of the anonymity involved with this messaging app. But according to reports, it was actually Kik itself that reported some suspicious activity involving Mr. Crafty Pants back in August. Per court documents, between August
Mr.
5th
Crafty
and
Pants.
7th, these explicit images were allegedly sent from his Kik account. Now, there were images sent involving kids ages 12 to 17, but also other images of children under the age of 12. And that led to multiple charges. Here's how they all break down. 10 counts of distributing matter portraying a sexual performance by a minor under age 12. 15 counts of distributing matter portraying a sexual performance by a minor over age 12 but under age 18. 3 counts of possession of matter portraying a sexual performance by a minor under 12, and 1 count of possession of matter portraying a sexual performance by a minor over age 12 but under age 18, first offense. So basically, there are charges of both possessing these images and distributing
It makes me
them.
want to
And
throw up.
here's something else that could be important for his defense. Investigators allegedly found selfie-style images.
Like, I hate having to interact with kids. The more and older I get, because I tried to be a teacher for a bit, but that's impossible. And even just talking to kids like this is gross to me. I don't know if I'm talking to kids in Discord sometimes. I don't try to like befriend any, but that's why I'm like so aggressive in Discord, because I don't want kids to like me. I don't want friends on Discord. Discord friends are not real. Like most of the friends I talk to on Discord, I already know.
Images within all of these files, meaning that Mr. Crafty Pants was allegedly running the account, so it could be tough to dispute as part of his defense. Michael David Booth was arrested on October 22nd. He appeared in Jefferson County District Court just the following day, where he pleaded not guilty to all of the charges.
What?
Following his arrest, local TV stations spoke to those who lived close by Michael Booth, and neighbors told WDRB that police were at his home for several hours. They also noted that outside of his house, there was a sign that was apparently for Halloween decor reading, "I smell children." Now, neighbors say it used to seem festive and fun, but now it seems extra odd. Neighbor Lindsay Smart told
I smell
WDRB,
children.
quote, "You feel
Line.
like
So
you know your
creeper.
neighbors, but what
I always thought that was just like
behind
some
closed doors, I guess we know
cringy
it.
creeper line
It's sickening,
to make fun
it's
of.
disgusting, and I'm glad he got caught." Okay, yikes. This is a pretty severe case when we're talking about the allegations, but let's dig a little bit deeper with today's guest to kind of talk it all out. Let's bring on criminal defense attorney Eric Faddis. Thank you, Eric, for coming on and talking about something pretty.
Mm. It's enough pedophile exposure for one evening. What else is there to watch? Scream free with ads? Am I gonna get still gonna get me fucking copyright bullshit?
welcome back to another episode of Dreading, or if this is your first time here, welcome. Today we're going to be covering the still unsolved case of Missy Bevers, a woman whose killer was caught on camera but still remains at large. This case has been one that we've wanted to cover for a few years, but always held out hope that
Texas.
by the time we got around to it,
Texas is like a scary place, like for real. Because it's such a, it could almost be like another US itself. They want to succeed because they want to be super racist at all costs. That's Texas. I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to. They're still doing the whole gas thing too. So, I mean, there's a movie called The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. There's not a lot of other. The Florida Man movie, is that a movie? No. The Great Mississippi Purchase. Wait, Louisiana Purchase. Is that a movie? Californication was a TV show that was kind of popular for like a year. Fargo is a city. That doesn't help or relate to whatever I'm trying to even talk about. Texas. I don't like Texas. It, all my mom's family's there. It's nice to visit, but living in Texas is unimaginable to me.
we could say it had finally been solved. Unfortunately, as we've been working over the past 3 years, there have been no new updates. As always, cold cases tend to live and die by the public's general awareness. When the public demands answers from law enforcement, when the news stations refuse to let a case die, and reporting brings the story to new eyes, that is when we typically see action. And unfortunately, again, because the case is still ongoing, a substantial amount of information has not been made public by the police. Obviously, they do want to keep some information private out of respect for Missy, as well as to preserve the investigation. However, this makes reporting on and around the case somewhat difficult. If you sincerely believe that you know something about this crime, or recognize the suspect in the footage provided, or genuinely believe that you have information that could lead to Missy's killer being caught, multiple links will be left in the description box down below for you to submit it to the Midlothian Police Department. You can make an anonymous tip by texting MIDL in your tip to 847411 or by calling Crime Stoppers of Ellis County at 972 937 PAYS. PAYS. Only use those resources if you actually have information. Submitting a false tip because you're bored or you want to feel important is not only a waste of the police department's time, but actively hurts the investigation. So, with all of that said, let us begin. Missy Bevers was born Terry Leanne.
That's how dumb people do that, especially if they're like on YouTube and they listen to this dude just to call the department, just to troll them. It's so fucking.
Strickland in the summer of 1970 in the quiet Texas town of Graham. Like a lot of small town kids, she grew up surrounded by family, faith, and the kind of routine that feels unremarkable at the time but ends up defining a person. Her parents, James and Norma, were known to their community as hardworking, decent people. Friends who knew Missy as a girl described her as warm and charismatic, someone who anyone could talk to, but also was deeply empathetic. She was one of the kids who noticed when someone was left out and found a way to pull them in. Missy was described, even early in her life, as a straightforward go-getter who never met a challenge that she couldn't overcome. She was constantly pushing herself and those around her to do the best that they possibly could, especially when it was hard. After graduating from Jacksboro High School, Missy went on to study at Tarleton State University, earning her bachelor's degree in the mid-90s. Shortly after obtaining her degree, she would meet and then marry Brandon Bevers. By all accounts, she was not someone chasing prestige or excitement. Instead, she gravitated towards work that meant something, work that helped people. After marrying Brandon, Missy would go back to school to get a teaching certificate in special education and would become a teacher's assistant. Her position was difficult and required a fair bit of patience, compassion, and the ability to stay calm when things became unpredictable. Coworkers remembered her as being upbeat and dependable, the kind of teacher who made learning feel safe and fun for the kids who needed it the most. She taught up until she had her first child, Hannah, in 2001. She would go on to have 2 more daughters in the coming years, and would ultimately choose to be a stay at home mother. The family looked picture perfect from the outside: church on Sundays, barbecues with friends, school drop offs, birthday parties, all that stuff. But like any family balancing jobs, bills, and kids, there were pressures behind the scenes. However, Missy always seemed to thrive under pressure. She would focus her stress and energy onto things that she could actually control, and that meant her own health and fitness. She began working out every day, and her physical transformation would eventually lead to people around her asking for advice and coaching. It started small, just helping friends and church members get into shape, but before long, she had joined Camp Gladiator, a well known outdoor fitness boot camp. Camp Gladiator was a workout program that has been compared to an MLM, largely due to how the company itself works alongside trainers. However, Missy was exceptionally gifted at what she did. This ultimately was a place where people could get stronger and lose weight, but it was also about connection and building a community where people could feel good about.
Did she get murdered in a church? How could you do that? Hello, the comic coming along better, along well, better along it come along. How you doing, Raven?
Those who trained with her described her as a force of nature. She was up before dawn, rain or shine, setting up cones and mats in the dark before her
I
classes began. She didn't cancel easily. If the weather was bad, she would move the class indoors. If attendance dropped, she found ways to motivate people to come back. Her students admired her consistency, that
it's
quiet
coming
accountability
along.
that comes from someone who practices what they
I
preach.
gotta
She also wouldn't let her students off the hook so easily. She would push people past where they wanted to stop,
catch up on it.
proving that they had one more rep in them, and celebrating when they actually did. By 2016, Missy's life had become a balancing act. She was well liked, respected, and seemingly thriving, but there were stress fractures beneath the surface. According to family and friends, her marriage had been strained in the months before her death. Money was tight. She and Brandon were reportedly trying to work through communication issues and the fatigue that comes from years of juggling family and career. There are some reports that state that there were conversations surrounding an extramarital relationship. However, it's unclear as to who those statements are referring to. Missy had also begun receiving strange messages via LinkedIn. She had shown the messages to a friend, finding them off putting and creepy, but ultimately wrote these off as a stranger just being a bit too weird. After some time, Missy began communicating with this person, and the messages became a bit more familiar and flirty, according to the police. However, it's unclear if Missy ever met up with this person, or if he then became known to her. According to those around her, in April of 2016, Missy had thrown herself into her work. She'd been promoting new classes and encouraging her students to stay consistent. Those close to her said she seemed tired but motivated, proud of how far she had come as an
Hmm.
instructor. She was running her Camp Gladiator sessions at Creekside Church of Christ in Midlothian, about 20 minutes drive from her home. They usually ran their camps outside. However, Missy had full permission to bring the classes indoors if the weather turned sour. And that's exactly what she planned to do April 18th, 2016, posting that there would be no excuses not to come to training because of the thunderstorm that had occurred the day prior. But unfortunately, Missy would never make it to that workout. The Camp Gladiators were set to work out April 18th at 5 a.m., which meant that Missy was set up at 3:30 in the morning, going about her daily routine to prepare. Oddly enough, as she ate breakfast and got dressed for the day at 3:50 a.m., an unknown person disguised in a police SWAT uniform would break into the Creekside Church of Christ. Though the person's entire visage was covered from head to toe, their height may be anywhere from 5'2" to 5'8". They entered the church by breaking a window on a door in the kitchen, then unlocking it. This door was not one of the main entrances, and indicated some prior knowledge of the building by the suspect. This person slowly wandered through the church's halls, going room to room with what appeared to be a hammer in hand, as if they were looking for someone or something in particular. They had a strange walk, which police had described repeatedly as duck-billed. This meant that their feet pointed outwards, instead of straight forward. Nothing about their movements indicated any sort of urgency or fear of being found out. As they moved about the church, they routinely caused damage to multiple structures and fixtures, making a mess of the area without a real purpose. Their behavior on the scene, as captured by security cameras inside the church, is entirely incongruent with a person attempting a burglary. In cases where a person is trying to rob an establishment, they're often going to do so as quickly and efficiently as possible. They aren't typically going to take their time and lazily walk through the building, checking doors and breaking glass, because their goal is to get what they need and get out without raising any suspicion. However, this person obviously didn't care about that. They aren't interested in finding high-value items in the church or being as quiet as possible. Instead, it's as if they're purposely inviting attention to their actions by making a mess. Moreover, If they were simply there to rob the church, they chose a time in which they knew a workout class would be happening. Missy was well known for never canceling her classes, and had posted the night prior that she'd still be there bright and early, meaning that the suspect either just happened to break into the church right around the time when Missy would arrive, or that she was their target all along. It also doesn't make much sense to rob a church in the early morning hours, knowing that some churches do have early services. If this person wasn't targeting Missy and rather wanted to vandalize and burglarize the church, they would have done so when they were less likely to have been caught. At 4:16 a.m., Missy would arrive at the church and begin setting up for her class. However, after entering the church, she would be attacked by the masked assailant. She'd been struck multiple times in the head and chest, according to her autopsy, and police have stated that the weapon that was used matches the tools that the suspect in the footage was seen carrying. Missy's body would be found by one of her trainees. However, the person who killed her had seemingly fled the scene without raising any suspicion. One of her trainees had arrived at the church at 4:35 a.m., barely 15 minutes after Missy entered the building. The trainee then sat in her car and hung out as she waited for the class to start, meaning that either the murder had already happened and the murderer had already fled the scene, or that they were able to leave the area without raising any sort of suspicion. Again, this indicates that the attack had been planned and was not a spur-of-the-moment action done by a robber who had been caught off guard. One of the trainees would take it upon themselves to call Missy's husband, Brandon, while they waited for the police to arrive. According to Brandon, she informed him that Missy had been in some sort of an accident, which he took to mean a car accident. Brandon was about 600 miles away at the time of the murder, on a fishing trip with his father and several friends. He then called his sister, Christy, and told her that Missy had been in a car wreck. He asked her to go take care of the kids while he drove the 8 hours back home. However, the true nature of her death would be revealed to him by police a few hours later. It had been over 7 years since the last murder in Midlothian, Texas, and many believed that the case would quickly be solved. They had video of the suspect after all, and many believed that there must have been even more evidence that the police were keeping close to their chest. However, the case quickly went cold. Originally, the police would state that the person seen in the footage was a man, and that they may have had some connection to law enforcement, but after multiple experts reviewed the footage, they disagreed that anything about the suspect's gender could definitively be claimed. Some said that the walk was part of a temporary medical condition, while others claimed that the suspect was wearing shoes that were far too big for them in order to disguise their appearance. Regardless, the only thing that they could agree on was the fact that nothing was known for sure. The police then looked into Brandon, noting that he readily admitted that they were in the midst of financial and marital woes. However, he had one solid alibi, one that was confirmed by multiple independent witnesses as well as his phone's data. It was physically impossible for him to have been the one to have killed his wife. However, the investigation then turned to his father, Randy. Following Missy's murder, Randy had brought a bloody t-shirt to a local dry cleaner, despite the fact that the shirt was white and belonged to a woman, and was very obviously not the shirt worn by the killer at the scene. The employee who took the shirt immediately called the police, believing that Randy had just given them the evidence. Randy would be brought in for questioning about the shirt, and he stated that the blood belonged to their family dog, Kylo, who had been in a fight. The police then tested the blood and found that it wasn't human and matched his story. Videos still exist online comparing his walk to that of the killer, with people boldly claiming that it is direct evidence. However, just like with Brandon, Randy was hundreds of miles away at the time of the murder. A month after the murder, the police would update the public, saying that none of Missy's friends, family, or co-workers could be considered suspects. They had gone through and talked to everyone they could find, including the person who had sent the LinkedIn messages, and found nothing of interest to the investigation. They also informed the public that there was one person they were looking to talk to who was in the area at the time. At 2 a.m., nearly 2.5 hours before Missy's murder, a light-colored Nissan Altima with an oval sticker on its bumper was seen driving oddly in a shopping center parking lot across the street from the church. The driver pulled into the lot, repeatedly turned their headlights on and off, and drove in circles for approximately 6 minutes. The police stated that the driver of the car was not a suspect, but might have seen something suspicious in the area. But it's unlikely that that is the case. To be clear, the police likely stated that the driver of the car was not a suspect in order to give them a false sense of security so they would come forward. Oftentimes, guilty parties will insert themselves into police investigations, especially if they feel as if they aren't being looked at as a suspect, for a sense of security. But unfortunately, this call to action would seemingly yield no leads. And unfortunately again, this is where the case is today. Missy's life, of course, was not defined by the chaos that ended it, but by the quiet discipline that preceded it. She was the friend who showed up early, the teacher who stayed late, the mother who tried to do everything right. She loved deeply, gave freely, and believed that consistency could build safety. Missy's killer has yet to be brought to justice, and her family still has no answers as to what happened. And we hope that one day that changes. Again, if you sincerely believe that you know something about this crime, multiple links will be left in the description box down below, should you want to submit a tip to the Midlothian Police Department. You can make an anonymous tip by texting MIDL and your tip to 847411, or by calling Crime Stoppers of Ellis County at 972-397-PAYS. That is PAYS. With all that said, let us know what you think in the comments down below. Have a great day, and remember, stay safe.
Hello, this is Dr. Grande. Today I will analyze the case of Trinity Shockley. First, I'll look at the background of
Dr. Grande. Raven. Raven, Raven.
The term lost media refers to videos, photos, games, and files that are thought to have existed but can't be found anymore. Maybe a server went offline, or the only copy was on a hard drive that someone threw away. There's usually a trail or evidence of some kind, telling us what it was and where it used to be. One bit of lost media that's had me morbidly curious for years is LOL Superman. It's allegedly a video of people jumping from the Twin Towers on September 11th, 2001, and landing in the plaza right in front of the cameraman who caught everything. The general consensus is that it surfaced around 2006 and was about a minute long. According to Reddit user Supermarket Brief, the footage started either directly at the plaza or at the stairs leading to the plaza, and that two people fell down and hit the ground right in front of the cameraman. The footage was originally uploaded on heaven666.org under one of two possible names. Two Idiot Jumpers Hit Ground in Courtyard, or Faces of Death, WTC Jumpers, Nasty. The second name was later debunked as being the title of a video on Ogrish, another shock and gore site from back in the day. The uploader was a TV technician going by Jay, who worked at a news station in New York City. Most uploads of the footage were quickly taken down because of copyright strikes, and that's why it didn't get archived. Corroborating this was a claim in 2011, 4 years before the rumors of the video's existence became mainstream. On the forums of
Firefighter on the ground.
documentingreality.com, user Tricon7 commented, "I read some eyewitness accounts online once, and I remember one of a firefighter on the ground by one of the towers screaming at a man nearby for videotaping jumpers hitting the ground. The guy had to have been right there in spitting distance for a firefighter to care or notice him. So I think there's at least one individual out there who has some really close-up footage of jumpers actually hitting the pavement." In corners of the internet like this, there are many people saying that they've seen LOL Superman. It's not like a lot of other lost media, like Evil Farming Game, where it's a few people or even just one person relaying all the details. But this doesn't necessarily mean that we can rule out people misremembering, or the Mandela effect. Put it this way, if someone said they saw footage of jumpers on the internet, I would believe them, but the chances of everyone seeing this one specific video and remembering the fine details 9+ years later, maybe not. As Reddit user Somber Tabogli put it, I'm sure there are 9/11 videos from the early internet that are lost and that people saw but are thinking it's LOL Superman, basically mixing up a bunch of real videos. Human brains are weird and have a tendency to think the same misremembered things.
Yeah.
A user responded, "There were definitely videos where you could hear bodies hitting the pavement, and I think that turns into people saying they saw videos of people hitting the ground." Using web archives, Lost Media investigators learned that a video simply called Superman once existed on YouTube. It was uploaded by 19Heather91, was 5 seconds long, and had about 11,000 views. By the time everyone caught on to this, the video had been deleted, but the user still existed, and that meant it could be accessed. After getting into the account, user SkinnyPup posted, "This is the origins of 19Heather91, Superman. This adds to the theory of LOL Superman being a false memory. The video itself is the Brazil footage, which was also seen in a 9/11 tribute video back in 2005 on YouTube. Many have mentioned having relatives or they themselves having gruesome 9/11 footage on their cell phones back in the 2000s. The file type of this adds to those claims as the file is a 3GP file, which means it was sent through a 3G phone. Yet the tags classify it as 9/11. The video audio is also of the original Brazil footage." So what was the Brazil footage? In a post on r/morbid questions about the existence of LOL Superman, user Between Two Towers said, "LOL Superman is not a real video, or at least one depicting the 9/11 terror attacks. The original video titled Superman was uploaded by a YouTube user 19Heather91 sometime around 2006 and was deleted from YouTube around 2011. The video was a clip from a building fire in Brazil from the 1970s and captures someone jumping to their death. The video's tags were all September 11th related, which is why it would show up with actual 9/11 videos. And it wasn't long until I found the video they were talking about. Just a small correction though, it wasn't from the 70s. It was footage of the Andarina building fire in Rio de Janeiro 1986, which took the lives of 21 people. As for the video itself, it showed a man throwing himself from the top floor of the building. Well, first, it checks out that the person who jumped landed right in front of the cameraman. Second, the version I found didn't have any audio, and I couldn't find a version that did, but there were firefighters very close by, so a firefighter could have yelled at the cameraman to stop recording. There's no way for me to be sure, but it does make a lot of sense. But unlike the supposed LOL Superman, there was only one person who jumped, not two. Also, it's very obviously not the Twin Towers that they're jumping from. And it's not a minute, it's 5 seconds. And maybe I'm reaching here, but I don't think you would have seen a car like this in the year 2001. Those looking for LOL Superman acknowledged that this video was commonly mistaken to be LOL Superman, but insisted that the actual footage was still out there. Beyond this, nothing solid. One lead came up a few months ago claiming that the video might have been named 100 Story Pancake and posted on Death Addict. The link no longer worked because Death Addict was no longer on the internet, and the Wayback Machine didn't archive the media. But a user in the same thread used a backlink checker to learn that the name of the link was "Woman Chases After Truck with Trailer and Gets Pancaked." So not 9/11 footage. Another lead was on r/mttj research. A video titled OMG LOL Superman was found on Flurl, but again without the video itself. Commenters in the Reddit post brought up that it might just be the Brazil video again. One user said, "The LOL Superman name was a meme during the 2000s. Any person flying in a funny way in a video could have this name. So this video on Flurl could be unrelated to a tragic event. But that same user also argued that too many people were remembering the same details for it to be the Mandela effect. I would argue that, yes, the general details are widely agreed on, but those general details are also pretty broad. In disasters of any kind, where people are forced to jump from buildings, firefighters are usually the ones to respond. We never got an exact number, but I saw estimates of anywhere from 1,100 to 2,000 New York City firefighters being on the scene that day. Given the scenario and the numbers, the odds of someone filming running into a firefighter were higher than you'd think, especially if they were close to ground zero. And we have evidence of SEO baiting and people just mixing up the details so that unrelated videos showed up if you looked for 9/11 footage. The Andarina building fire video from Brazil is just one example of this. I even saw Blender animations depicting LOL Superman. So my opinion is, though we haven't found all the 9/11 footage that's out there, I think this particular one, LOL Superman, might not exist. Broad details meant multiple videos were
I
meeting
thought that.
criteria.
I think it doesn't
Maybe different
exist.
people saw different, similar videos, thinking that they saw LOL Superman. Then having to
I think
remember the
videos
exact details 9 or
exist,
more years later,
but
when the search went mainstream,
they're never
wouldn't
gonna.
have been
There's
easy.
not one that was
But if it
LOL
does get found,
Superman
then
in particular.
I'm gonna say it with my
I'm sure
chest,
there's
I was
videos
wrong.
that
For a topic with more recent
people
details
may
and
have but
developments,
never
check out my
uploaded
video on the connection between late night ice cream trucks.
because people are still uploading 9/11 footage. Like even last year, even this year, probably. I don't know, but who knows what people filmed? But I really don't think there ever was a LOL Superman video that people are talking about. There's lots of footage of people jumping from buildings. I remember looking for stuff when I was a younger kid when it was happening. And some of those same pictures I found, people on like on the ground and stuff, posts. Yeah. Huh. Maybe one day or never. Who knows?
And missing kids in Virginia. Thank you for watching.
What?
In Virginia, check out my video on the connection between late night ice cream trucks and missing kids in Virginia. Check out my video on the connection between late night ice cream
88 children reported missing.
trucks and missing kids in Virginia.
It's weird how the media doesn't care about kids. Or things like all this crazy shit. They'd rather report about the dumbest shit. But kids are being fucking kidnapped or shot to death. It's a weird fucking society.
In August 2025, a lot of videos were going around on social media, particularly TikTok, claiming that children were going missing in Virginia. Dozens of children. At the same time, there were also a lot of videos about ice cream trucks driving around neighborhoods at very off times, usually midnight or later. It didn't take long for people to begin speculating that there was a connection between the two. Clips like these were being posted everywhere. Between Sunday, August 3rd and Saturday, August 9th, 88 children were reported missing in Virginia, and rumors of a mass kidnapping operation spread like a wildfire. Here's the thing. I looked up a bunch of the names in missing persons databases, and there were no matching entries, although it's possible they were archived after they were found or found out that it was fake. Anyone looking past the surface level of the mystery would find that every source claiming that a large number of children were going missing were either social media posts by individuals or published by non-major news outlets. The Fairfax County Times published an opinion piece in mid-August titled, "Virginia has 36 missing kids in 11 days, yet nobody is talking about it." A line from the article reads, "From August 1st to August 11th, 36 children ages 12 through 17 have gone missing across Virginia. This is an average of 3.27 children missing per day. In the past 365 days, before the first of this month, 149 children went missing in Virginia, with an average of 0.41 children missing per day. This is a 797.56% increase in the average number of missing children per day in the past year versus the past 11 days. I'm a bit skeptical of the author's sources, though. I couldn't find any data that lined up with their exact numbers. Furthermore, the author stated that they saw one TikTok video and dismissed it as hearsay. But then they saw a second TikTok video, and that seemed to convince them. On the other hand, Snopes and WTOP were actually saying the opposite, that there was nothing more nefarious than usual happening, and debunked it with official statements from Virginia State Police. Virginia State Police explicitly stated that there was no evidence of a mass abduction in the state. Rather, the number of missing child reports, 88 total, from August 3rd to 9th, 2025, was lower than the state's weekly 2025 average of 98. As of August 20th, 8 children from that time span remained missing. Still, 88 children going missing in a week with 98 as the average sounds really bad, but
Yeah.
the Snopes article explained why those numbers were unique to Virginia. The number of missing children in Virginia is typically higher than in other US states because the state reports all missing child cases, including those who run away from home voluntarily, to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. This makes it the outlier among states. Additionally, authorities don't issue Amber Alerts unless they meet strict criteria, including sufficient evidence that a child was taken unwillingly. This explained the alarmingly high numbers and also the lack of Amber Alerts. And they had no evidence of ice cream trucks being involved in any of the missing children cases. Many in communities like r/Virginia or r/Nova, Northern Virginia, agreed that it was a hoax. One Reddit user even said that this kind of hysteria over Virginia's missing children's numbers has happened before. Then they linked 2 posts from 2022 talking about children disappearing at alarming rates. According to 2024 numbers, Virginia also had fewer Amber Alerts than 9 other US states, with Texas at number 1 having 54 Amber Alerts, and California in second place with 16 Amber Alerts. Virginia had 5. The biggest giveaway that it wasn't actually happening was that pretty much all content pushing this theory came from TikTok, which, while entertaining, is a huge source of misinformation. I think what made this story more believable were the statistics behind it. Saying that 88 kids went missing in a week would get a reaction out of anyone. Also, around that time, clips of women knocking on doors late at night and begging for help were appearing along with the missing children posts.
Hi, you are currently being recorded. I don't know if you're seeing this. My name is.
Please wait.
You can write it down. I'm a girl.
It may take me a moment.
I'm missing right now. I'm trying to get back to my best friend's house.
What do you want?
Okay. My name is. I don't know if you've ever heard my name, and I'm on. The only thing I've been on is. I promise you that you can test
Go to the
me.
house.
If you don't believe me,
Listen, can you go to the house?
I'm trying to.
Listen to me.
I'm sorry. I'm so.
Listen to me. Go to the house.
I'm so sorry if I woke you guys up. If you want me to leave, I can. My house is just down there, and I don't feel safe walking because multiple men have stopped by and honked at me, and I don't know what the.
Go to the house next door. Go next door. Don't go to my house.
Okay.
Go next door. Knock on their door. Don't get away from my door.
I couldn't find the context of this specific clip, but it was one of a few I found while scrolling through the missing kids in Virginia topic, and it's a common tactic to trick homeowners into opening their door so intruders could break in. I noticed that at first, she was trying to get to her best friend's house, and then the story changed to getting back to her house because she lived just down the street, and then her panic went away and she said okay in a much calmer voice after the homeowner wasn't going to let her in. Anyway, I won't claim to understand TikTok's algorithm, but it probably grouped the sporadic missing children in Virginia content with videos about ice cream trucks driving around neighborhoods late at night. Another occurrence that is also just very strange. From there, people started drawing connections on their own. There's more evidence of the TikTok algorithm juxtaposing two unrelated topics and leading people to draw false conclusions. I saw people talking about what the motive could have been for the alleged mass abductions of children, and one of the last things I expected to see was Hurricane Katrina. In August 2005, Hurricane Katrina devastated New Orleans, killing over 1,000 people. How in the world could that have anything to do with this? Enough people were pushing that theory for others to notice and begin talking about it, and that's how I found out. What if the government is kidnapping kids to distract us about Hurricane Katrina? Also, yes, I think the ice cream truck is definitely involved. Kids get ice cream, and then bam, they get kidnapped. 4,289 likes.
That was a thing in Spawn. I love Spawn. Kills pedophiles.
Is it me, or I find it so weird that when people start talking about how weird Hurricane Katrina happened, all of a sudden 50 or more kids go missing in Virginia? I kept running into the phrase, the truth behind Katrina, and I'm here wondering what a hurricane that hit Louisiana 20 years ago could have to do with children going missing in Virginia today. Probably very little. I find it fascinating that every few years there's some kind of downright bizarre hysteria on the internet that gets blown out of proportion and people think it's part of a much bigger picture. A favorite of mine are the clown sightings from 2016. At the time, there was a channel on YouTube called DM Pranks Productions that was going viral for its killer clown pranks. This inspired a few copycats, and that started a trend that clowns were trying to take over the United States, or that it was actually a group of serial killers using social media virality as a way of hiding their victims' bodies. And for some people, seeing something twice is enough for them to believe it. But hey, seeing is believing, right? So if you saw dozens of help messages in a train yard on Google Earth, would you believe that there was human trafficking going on? Check out my video on the Los Angeles Help Signs mystery and tell me what you think. Thank you for watching.
On the morning of August 26, 2015, WDBJ reporter 24-year-old Allison Parker and her cameraman 27-year-old Adam Ward visited the Bridgewater Plaza near Smith.
Oh, that gay guy that shot his coworkers. He was a fucking psychopath.
Just a quick disclaimer before we get started. This guy I'm about to talk about is obviously very religious, so if that kind of subject matter makes you uncomfortable and you feel like clicking off the video now, I wouldn't blame you. Though it is very mild. I'm not here to bully anyone or to bash or promote anyone's beliefs. This is simply an interesting guy on the internet that I've been meaning to talk about for a long time. Hello everyone, I'm Remy. This is worthy to be a submission, but it reminds me of the clumsy robot. What is this?
I cannot believe that I am having to make this video. I cannot believe that this is happening.
In 2018, a mysterious YouTube channel called Pop Blast uploaded a hit piece against Shane Dawson. The situation did garner decent attention, but quickly became forgotten due to other massive YouTube controversies. Looking deeper into it, there's a web of lies, deceptions, and a massive conspiracy theory that either ties everything together or was meant as a distraction. This is the Pop Blast Conspiracy. The Pop Blast channel was created in September 2016, though that's not what it was originally called. It instead went by Jacob Sartorius Videos, reposting content from Jacob himself and all related clips. It managed to gain 400,000 subscribers in less than a year, with multiple of its videos getting over 1 million views. This was most likely due to the clickbait titles and thumbnails, which go from absurd to flat out disturbing. Jacob Sartorius Sexiest and Grinding Moments 2016, Jacob Sartorius dating baby Ariel, kissing girlfriend 2016, proof. Jacob Sartorius vs Maddie B, who's hotter? Jacob Sartorius kissing girls on the lips, every picture. Jacob Sartorius real phone number leaked December 2016. Jacob Sartorius likes Kylie Jenner twerking Snapchat video. Jacob Sartorius catches fire using flamethrower, full video. And Jacob Sartorius biggest fan twerks for him. I can't even show the thumbnail to that last video. It's literally just an image of an underage girl's ass with the text, "She's 7. Suffice to say, this channel was a content mill, milking the crap out of Jacob Sartorius and his brand, until his career eventually fell off. Some of you probably don't even know who this kid was. By mid-2017, the channel was renamed to Pop Blast, mainly reposting content related to celebrities like Taylor Swift and Ariana Grande. We don't know who runs this channel, though at one point their description read, "Ran by a 17-year-old who is just trying to make a mark." A British flag emoji is also included, despite their location being set to the United States. The channel did continue to grow, eventually reaching 700,000 subscribers, though by late 2017, the views dipped, with some videos barely reaching 10,000 views. That was until one of its videos went viral, in all the wrong ways. On January 10th, 2018, Pop Blast released a video titled, "Shane Dawson is a pedophile, here's my proof." The video is 5 minutes long, and I'll link it down below if you want to watch the full thing. I was actually going to try and play the whole thing here, but there's various parts of it that might risk this video getting age restricted or flat out removed. The video consists of audio from Shane's old podcast, Shane and Friends, in which he and his former producer, Lauren Schnepper, discuss a child star that Shane had an interaction with. I'll play a clip so you understand the gist.
This child was probably 6 years old, and I was taking a picture of something, and the kid turns to me and goes, "Oh, are you Instagramming?" And first of all, how does a 5-year-old, 6-year-old know what Instagram is? Which is terrifying. Second of all, I was embarrassed because yes, I was, and it was a picture of my salad. And the 6-year-old girl goes, "Oh, how many followers do you have?" I have 125,000.
No.
Her dick was almost as big as mine.
Really?
And I said, "Okay, little big dick, why do you have so many followers?" And she goes, "Oh, I'm a cheerleader." And I'm like, "Oh, really?" And she shows me her Instagrams, which are like, first of all, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but like, she's like sexy. She's like sexy.
You're disgusting.
I know. Listen, we've talked about pedophilia
No, this
before.
is Shane. Like, do not say this, and I don't even want to talk about it. Like, you will get arrested.
The video also brings up a few other claims, though barely any context is given for it. For instance, it calls him out for collaborating with a 13-year-old girl for a video, and for dating people with baby faces, though that's Poplast's claim, not mine. It ends with a couple more clips where Shane makes gross statements about children, and calls out his sponsors.
That's the worst thing ever when like a kid who you know who's like so cute and little, and you're like, yeah, spray them! And then you see them again and they're like 8 feet tall and their voice is like this. And they have like that weird beard hair. Ugh, just stay a baby forever.
The video received quite a bit of backlash, with the title soon changed to, "I think Shane Dawson is a pedophile, here's my proof." The video description says that they won't take down the video unless some sort of action is taken against it, claiming it falls under fair use. A link is provided for that podcast clip, but sources for the other clips and bits of information are not provided, which is sketchy to say the least. Shane would respond later that same day, releasing a 14-minute video titled, "Regarding the rumors about me today." For some reason, he recorded this on the shittiest camera possible, and he's wearing a shirt with a bunch of holes in it. Bro looks like the homeless guy hanging outside the local Wendy's. Anyways, Shane starts off by outright denying that he's a child diddler, in perhaps the most over-the-top way he could.
I cannot believe that I am having to make this video. I cannot believe that this is happening. I'm gonna start by saying I am not a fucking pedophile. I, Shane Yaw, my real name, go on record saying I am not a fucking pedophile. Got it? Great. Here's my statement. Because everybody's saying, Shane, make a statement. There's my statement. I'm not a fucking pedophile. It's disgusting that people are saying I'm a fucking pedophile because of some shitty ass fucking jokes from 6 years ago on a podcast. Now let me explain a little bit more.
Shane goes on to apologize for his older, shitty jokes, something he's had to do multiple times over the years because there's so many that get dug up. He explains that those podcast clips are not him admitting to anything perverted or criminal, and that the whole point of Shane and Friends was to shock the co-host.
I loved the feeling of making somebody shocked and laugh because they couldn't believe what was coming out of my mouth. I wasn't confident enough to make smarter jokes. I was making the easy jokes. I was playing crazy stereotypical characters. I was doing shit that was racially insensitive. I was doing shit that was homophobic. I was doing shit that could be considered fat shaming. I was doing some fucked up like comedy stuff that I'm not proud of.
In regards to the main clip, they removed context of Shane describing how creepy the little girl's Instagram page is. I managed to find the episode, and I'll play the specific party references.
I look at this little girl's pictures, and she had makeup on, she had her tongue out, she was doing like the peace sign, she was doing a backflip, and one of them she was in the shape of a pretzel, and she put hashtag no filters, hashtag pretzel. I mean, like, I'm not making this up. Why are children...
Was she really 6 or was she like 9?
She was 6.
She must have been like 10.
No, I asked her. Her bio on Instagram is, I'm 6, bitch.
Dude, why are little
Stop
girls
it.
so
No,
fucking
so
fucked
why,
up?
first of all?
Is she like Honey Boo Boo? Is she fat?
No, she was like the skinny little sexy...
Yeah. she fat?
Let's move on.
No, so that's my UG. Why
What?
are children having Instagrams, and why do they almost have as many followers as I do?
That's your UG. Mine is.
Okay, fine, move on. But I'm seriously.
This context doesn't really save it for me, and the fact that so many people bought this excuse is surprising. Like, yeah, he's joking, but edgy jokes like this typically don't work. Shane is trying to make himself the butt of the joke for shock value, but when you have a history of making pedophilic jokes about yourself, people are eventually going to see you as a pedo. Despite this response, quelling many in Shane's audience, these older clips would still haunt him. A year later, another clip from the Shane and Friends podcast resurfaced, where he jokes about having sex with his cat.
The things I've done to my poor animals, they will never love me. I've done terrible things. I used to...
Oh no, I don't know if you want to go there, Shane. What'd you do?
One time, I laid my cat down on her
Are you
back.
gonna get arrested for this?
I don't know. No.
Think about it.
I don't think so.
Okay, go ahead.
I didn't penetrate. I laid the cat down on her back, and then I moved her little chicken legs, like, you know, spread open or whatever. And I was like, if I just like hump, but like on her tummy, like that's not weird, like whatever. And then I humped it, and it kept going, I came all over the cat.
No, you did
It
not.
was like my first sexual
Oh,
experience.
gross. Why'd you tell that
way.
story?
19, so it's like, you know.
You didn't want people to fucking...
Did you just say you came on a cat?
Guys, I think I have to put money in them either.
Again, a joke, but a joke without a real punchline. Just shock value with no substance. Though it did lead to Shane writing one of the funniest tweets of all time. I didn't fuck my cat. I didn't come on my cat. I didn't put my dick anywhere near my cat.
You
I've
think of
never
a
done
better
anything
story?
weird with my cats. More clips would resurface from some of Shane's videos, which include him faux masturbating to a picture of Willow Smith, who was underage at the time. Another where he tries to give the birds and the bees talk to his little cousin. Weirdest of all is that Shane would also collab with the Fine Brothers to make Millie, a child puppet whose whole gimmick is that they talk about sex.
Daisy, did you just come?
What? No!
Wait, Daisy, follow-up question. What does coming mean? Can you explain it to me in graphic detail?
What is this?
Yeah.
Whoa! That reminds me of the thing that my dad used to shove in my mouth when I was 3. Memories.
Shane had to make another apology video after this, where he does briefly mention the Pop Blast video and apologizes for those statements, regardless if context was cut.
So there's a clip that has been going around again. A few years ago is when it came out. And they cut out all the parts where I said, you know, pedophilia is disgusting. And they put it together, and it made it seem like I was, you know, talking about how it's normal. So gross. I would never say that. But also, I shouldn't have been joking about it anyways, which is my problem, my fault. So I'm sorry if you heard that.
Nevertheless, the video made by Pop Blast was incredibly flawed, and hasn't aged well despite the updates to the story. It reminds me of the Sunny V2 video on Chris Tyson. While the conclusion is technically correct, the arguments Sunny uses to paint Chris as a detriment to the MrBeast brand were insanely stupid. Because of this, Shane's fans are able to sweep this all away, and Pop Blast was quick to remove the video. It's not fully clear why, though it could be possible that Shane legally intimidated them in some way.
Basically, there's a clip right now called Shane Dawson is a pedophile. And then it says proof. First of all, that's illegal. You can't say somebody's a pedophile and say you have proof when they're not. There's a lot of legal words, I don't know, but I think there is a word for that. Defamation of character? I don't know. I'm not on CSI. I don't know. But it seems illegal to me to call somebody a fucking pedophile knowing that they are not. Or at least not having actual proof.
Shortly after the videos are moved, Pop Blast would upload a video titled Receipts, which shows a PayPal transaction with someone named Jeffrey Oscar 11. The audio is seemingly a young girl naming off random numbers.
116, 104, 101, 121, 032, 097, 114, 101, 032, 100, 105, 115, 116, 114, 097, 099, 116, 105, 110, 103, 032, 121, 111, 117.
Though these aren't just random numbers, they're meant to be decoded. People quickly found out that these numbers can be translated in ASCII, which stands for the American Standard Code for Information Interchange. Using code 69 through 90, along with code 26 as a space, the message translates to, "They're distracting you." So who is they? Well, this Jeffrey person referenced in the photo is also the name of Logan Paul's manager. The theory is that Jeff paid Poplast $6,500 in order to make the Shane Dawson hit piece. Why, you might ask? Well, to distract people from the ongoing Logan Paul Suicide Forest controversy. Only 10 days prior, Logan uploaded the infamous vlog where he explores the Okigahara forest, during which he finds a hanging body and has a peculiar reaction.
I've seen things I can't unsee.
We found a dead body.
Yup! What the fuck?
This became one of the biggest YouTube scandals of all time, with major media outlets reporting on it. Logan had to apologize for it, saying he made a severe and continuous lapse in his judgment and doesn't expect to be forgiven. You've all seen it at this point. So what Poplast is insinuating here is that Jeffrey paid them to make this video, in order to create a separate controversy, one that will distract the general public from Logan shenanigans. If Shane Dawson gets outed as a pedo, then maybe Logan will have an easier time making a comeback. This I guess didn't work, which is why Poplast is exposing this scheme. Not too long after, another video was uploaded titled Apology. There's no audio besides static, though more numbers are shown, which can be translated by ASCII. It reads, "I'm returning the money. It was not worth it. I'm sorry." This was followed by the video, "They Made Me Do It," which shows an alleged DM from Jeffrey in which he gives Poplast instructions. As you know, his comments have caused another expedient uproar in the general public. Make a video, around 4 to 7 minutes long, and use the following footage we have collected of Shane Dawson Yaw to label him as a pedophile. The rest is blocked off, redacted as if it was the Epstein files. Just like the receipts video, the audio in the background reads off more numbers. In ASCII, they translate to Hollywood. This is overall just weird and creepy. It feels like Poplast is replicating an old YouTube ARG, something like Marble Hornets or Ben Drowned, but instead of using it for good fun, they're doing it to possibly distract people. There's obviously no outside evidence that Jeffrey Oscar Levin ever contacted Poplast. All these images could have been entirely made up in order to shift the blame elsewhere. Like, think about it. If this is all true, why would Jeffrey send some of the weaker evidence against Shane when there's so much more to work off of? And why would he only pay Poplast $6,500 when Logan and his team are millionaires? Though maybe there are explanations for all that. I wouldn't be surprised if Logang were involved. There's definitely some shady stuff going on with them, though the theory itself is fascinating on its own. Over the next 24 hours, Poplast would continue uploading, though these videos seemingly had nothing to do with either Shane Dawson or Logan Paul. The first is titled, "The Video They Tried to Hide," which is actually a re-upload of the Papa Kills Babies video. For context, it shows two children alleging that their father is part of a satanic cult and sexually abused them. These claims are actually false, and the two children are forced to say this on video by their mother and her new partner. After that, Poplast uploaded, "The Rothschild Wants to Talk to You, Shane Dawson," which is a 4-minute slideshow about the history of the Rothschild family, connecting them to various conspiracies. Shane is not mentioned at all in this video, which is probably another attempt to distract people from the initial hit piece. After this, Poplast would begin posting these sorts of compilation videos, basically re-uploads of other low-effort videos. These were given strange titles like "Goodbye World" and "My Minion Toy's Trying to Kill Me." The strangest is the video "Goodbye Cruel World," which shows two different girls discussing their mental health struggles through flashcards. Poplast also did 2 live streams, which honestly seem like nonsense. They're both brief clips, with one showing a little girl describing how her house is haunted, and the other showing what looks like a dog bed with creepy music in the background. There are seemingly more videos uploaded by Poplast that are lost. The YouTuber Scare Theater brought up one titled, "I'm Ending My Life in 3 Hours, Final Video," which was quickly deleted. By this point, a lot of people were pissed at Poplast, as they were spamming out videos instead of actually addressing the Shane Dawson controversy. They felt it was best to mass report the channel, which did eventually work. On January 11th, 2018, the Poplast channel was terminated for spam, deceptive practices, and misleading content, or other terms of service violations. So that was that. the channel was seemingly gone for good. But maybe Pop Blast wanted it that way. Maybe they wanted their channel removed. After the Shane Dawson hit piece failed, and they weren't able to distract people with the Logan Paul connection, they decided to spam out videos as a last resort. Make it appear as if outside forces deleted the channel in order to not seem like total cowards. That's my theory at least. I mean, it seems like whoever ran this channel just gave up. We'll never truly know. Though it's odd is that the channel did eventually get unbanned. I'm not sure when, though it would have been after 2021, as it was still banned when I covered the topic in an older Lost Media video. Obviously, they won't ever return, though I wouldn't be surprised if they do. There's still a lot of unanswered questions related to Pop Blast, mainly with their motivations behind their later videos. There's a chance Logan and Jeffrey were involved, though it's more likely that this was done to drum up positive attention for Pop Blast. Because the views were dipping on their previous content, which again are uploads of other people's work, maybe they wanted to spice things up. Maybe this was meant to be some sort of ARG. The Shane Dawson videos could have been meant to drum up attention for it. Or maybe the idea of an ARG only came out after the Shane Dawson video backfired. It could have been made to simply garner more positive attention towards themselves, being the channel to expose and ruin Shane Dawson's career. Cause at the end of the day, I don't think Pop Blast gives a fuck about pedophilia. I mean, I think their Jacob Sartorius content is more pedophilic than anything Shane's ever said, since it actually shows real children in compromising positions. Some think Onision could have been involved, as he piggybacked off the situation to go after Shane, and distract people from his own scandals at the time. Let me know your theories in the comments below. Also, let me know if there's any other YouTube related mysteries you'd like me to cover. I really want to cover this sort of stuff again, alongside my drama coverage.
Connie Converse was born on August 3rd, 1924 in Laconia, New Hampshire, into a family with deep New England roots dating back to around 1630. She was raised in Concord as the middle child in a strict Baptist household. Her father, Ernest, was a Baptist minister, while her mother, Evelyn, was responsible for running a more strict household. Connie also had two brothers, one named Paul, who was 3 years older, and Philip, who was 5 years younger. The Converse home was characterized by rigid religious teachings. Dancing was forbidden and no music except religious or classical compositions was permitted. According to biographer Howard Fishman, the family environment was quite strict and puritanical, and Connie more or less resented it, eagerly awaiting the day that she could get out and live her own way. Down the line, several family members have mentioned how they believe the Converse household carried an air of mystique and held numerous family secrets. One notable example involved Connie's cousin Edie, who grew up believing her mother was actually her sister. This concealment and repression would profoundly shape Connie's worldview and her eventual break from the family's way of life. In school, Connie excelled. She attended Concord High School, where she served as class valedictorian and won 8 academic awards. Her exceptional performance earned her a full scholarship to Mount Holyoke College in Massachusetts, her mother's alma mater. She went on to accept the scholarship and enroll, but left after just 2 years. The reasons for her departure were complex. According to Fishman's biography, her best friend at the college committed a gruesome which deeply affected her. After leaving college, Converse essentially disappeared for approximately a year. Sources vary on what exactly she did throughout that time, but many believe that she traveled across the country. This time frame also marked her transformation from her strict lifestyle into someone seeking independence and expression in ways that would have horrified her family. Around 1945, she resurfaced and moved to New York City to pursue her dream of becoming a writer. She took a secretarial position at the Institute of Pacific Relations, an organization headquartered in Manhattan that specialized in relations between Pacific Rim countries. Then, during the 1950s in Greenwich Village, a neighborhood in New York, Converse began writing songs and performing them for friends with her guitar. She had played violin as a child, but since switched to guitar for her songwriting. Additionally, she also began smoking and drinking during this period. Upon learning about this, her parents reportedly rejected her music career. Eventually, her music came to the attention of Gene Deitch, an animator and amateur recording engineer who had previously made tape recordings of artists like John Lee Hooker and Pete Seeger in the 1940s. These kitchen recordings would prove to be some of the only documentation of her music. Gene was enchanted by the music and helped arrange what would be Converse's only known public performance, a brief television appearance in 1954 on The Morning Show on CBS, hosted by Walter Cronkite. Despite this national exposure and the hiring of an agent, no commercial interest materialized. In 1956, she made another set of recordings specifically for her brother Philip and his wife. This consisted of over 30 tracks she recorded herself on reel-to-reel tape, which would remain in Philip's filing cabinet for decades. By the late 1950s, Converse drifted away from songwriting as a result of consistent rejection and lack of commercial success. During the late 1960s, she shifted her attention toward academic and activist work. By the early 1970s, Converse was experiencing severe burnout. In 1963, she was given the position of managing editor for the Journal of Conflict Resolution, which had become central to her identity. At the end of 1972, it was moved to Yale after being auctioned off without her knowledge or consultation. This devastated Converse, and by 1973, she had become severely depressed. Her family and colleagues observed her deteriorating condition with alarm as she began drinking and smoking heavily. Her friends even pooled together their money to send her on a 6-month trip to England, hoping that it would improve her mood. The trip had little positive effect. She stayed less than a year and returned still a husk of herself. Her mother then convinced her to take a trip to Alaska, which Converse grudgingly accepted. Her distaste with this forced trip appeared to contribute to her decision to disappear. Around this time, doctors informed her that she needed a hysterectomy to remove a fibroid tumor. For a woman approaching 50 who had never married or had a widely known romantic relationship, this news reportedly deeply hurt Converse, as the surgery would eliminate her ability to have children. On August 10, 1974, just 1 week after her 50th birthday, Converse packed her belongings into her Volkswagen Beetle and drove away from Ann Arbor. Before leaving, she wrote a series of handwritten letters to family and friends, all suggesting her intention to make a new life somewhere else. In these letters, she explicitly asked them not to look for her. In one of them that was titled, "To anyone who ever asks if I'm long unheard from," she wrote, "This is the thin hard sublayer under all the parting messages I'm likely to have sent. Let me go, let me be if I can, let me not be if I can't." For a number of years now, I've been the object of affectionate concern to my relatives and many friends in Ann Arbor. I've received not just financial but spiritual support from them, have made a number of efforts in this benign situation to get a new toehold on the lively world, have failed. In the months after I got back from my desperate flight to England, I began to realize that my new personal incapabilities were still stubbornly hanging in. I did fight, but they hung in. To survive it all, I expect I must drift back down through the other half of the 20th century, which I already know pretty well, to the 100th century, which I have only heard about. I might survive there quite a few years, but you understand, I have to do it with no benign umbrella. Human society fascinates me and awes me and fills me with grief and joy. I just can't find my place to plug into it. So let me go, please, and please accept my thanks for those happy times. I am in everyone's debt. In a separate letter to Philip, Converse included a check and specific instructions that he ensure her health insurance remained paid and in good standing for a certain period following her departure, to speculate about her intentions regarding taking her own life. Converse was expected to join the family's annual trip to a lake, but by the time her letters were delivered, she had already departed. Neither Converse nor her Volkswagen Beetle has ever been found. Several years after the disappearance, someone told Philip that they had seen an Elizabeth Converse listing in a phone book in either Kansas or Oklahoma. Philip never pursued this lead. About 10 years after she disappeared, the family hired a private investigator to learn her whereabouts or determine if she had died. According to Philip, the investigator told the family that even if he found her, quote, it was her right to disappear and he could not bring her back. After hearing this, the family respected Converse's stated wishes and ceased actively looking for her. Philip would later say he did not know where his sister was or what he would say to her if she was ever found. However, he carefully preserved her legacy, maintaining a filing cabinet containing all her materials, including recordings, letters, diaries, writings, photographs, artwork, and poetry, all organized with a 9-page table of contents indicating where everything was located. Over the years, many sleuths and fans of Connie Converse's work have formed various theories as to what happened to her, the most prominent one being this particular possibility is also what Philip believes to be most likely. He noted that she had once defended a high school friend's decision to do the same, saying the decision to take one's own life was very personal. The fact that neither she nor her vehicle has ever been found suggests the possibility that she drove into a lake or river where both remain submerged. The specific insurance instructions in her letter to Philip could be interpreted as planning for a specific endpoint. Additionally, her final letter's phrase, "Let me be if I can, let me not be if I can't," suggests she was contemplating the possibility that she might not survive. Others believe she may have successfully created a new identity elsewhere. She had expressed a desire toward the end to work at a Woolworths, a retail chain where she could easily find a job while remaining anonymous. She was highly intelligent, well-traveled, and capable of reinventing herself, as she had done multiple times before. The potential phone book listing for Elizabeth Converse in Kansas or Oklahoma, though never verified, suggests this possibility. On another note, Converse was intensely private about her personal life. According to Gene Deitch, she would respond to personal questions with curt yes or no answers. Both Deitch and Philip Converse suggested it was possible she might have been a lesbian, though she never confirmed or denied this. Her nephew, Tim Converse, stated there is no evidence she was ever involved in a romantic relationship of any kind. This complete absence of known romantic or sexual relationships throughout her 50 years is striking and contributes to the mystery surrounding her. In an era when women faced enormous pressure to marry, Converse remained resolutely single, writing songs that explored themes of loneliness, desire, and the experience of not fitting social expectations. For several decades after her disappearance, Converse's music remained virtually unknown. The breakthrough came in January 2004 when Gene Deitch, by then 80 years old and living in Prague since 1959, was invited by New York music historian David Garland to appear on his radio show Spinning on Air. Deitch brought along his 1954 recordings and played Converse's song titled One by One. Two of Garland's listeners, Dan Zula and David Herman, were immediately captivated and inspired to track down any additional recordings. This led to the discovery of two sources, the first being Deitch's collection in Prague and the second being Philip's filing cabinet. In March 2009, Dan and David released How Sad, How Lovely, a compilation containing 17 songs by Converse. Unlike the 1960s and 70s, her music was received with immense praise. Pitchfork gave the album a 9.4 out of 10 rating. AllMusic scored it 4.5 stars out of 5, with reviewer Fred Thomas noting that, quote, Converse's lyrics are always playful, spacey, and even somewhat psychedelic. She made songs far too vulnerable and odd to be accepted in her time. The Los Angeles Times' Randall Roberts called the work strikingly intimate, poetic, self-penned folk songs, and declared, "Few reissues of the past decade have struck me with more continued joyous affection as how sad, how lovely." Today, Connie Converse is recognized as arguably the first modern singer-songwriter who created deeply personal confessional music years ahead of her time. Music historians consider her a, quote, missing link between a now old-fashioned kind of American music and the reflective, complex, arresting music that transformed the 1960s and music forever. The Jusco ATM Phantom incident is a disturbing unsolved case that took place in Japan. On February 17, 2004, at a Jusco shopping center in Yokkaichi City, a tragic sequence of events unfolded that would result in the wrongful death of an innocent man and the escape of an unidentified woman who became known as the Phantom. The incident has become infamous in Japan not only for its tragic outcome, but also for the eerie, almost inhuman appearance of the suspect captured on surveillance footage. The victim, referred to in official reports as Mr. A or Oji-san to protect his privacy in accordance with Japanese law, was a 68-year-old retiree living in Yokkaichi City, approximately 1 kilometer from the Jusco shopping center where the incident occurred. He was described as a kind-hearted individual who had spent 40 years working for a chemical manufacturing company before retiring. After his retirement, he had been collecting a pension and supplementing his income by working part-time as a security guard. He lived with his wife, children, and grandchildren. Within his community, he was seen as an upstanding citizen, a devoted family man, and someone who would help neighbors with odd jobs and problems they were facing. On the day of the incident, the man had gone to Jusco to purchase food for his grandson's pet hamster. His hands were full of shopping bags containing various pet supplies he had just bought, and he needed to withdraw cash from the ATM to pay for additional items. His family and friends would later describe him as someone completely incapable of the crime he was accused of committing. Jusco, now rebranded as Aion, is a chain of large department stores popular throughout Japan. These massive shopping centers contain everything from grocery stores and clothing retailers to restaurants and various other amenities. They are designed to be one-stop shopping destinations where customers can spend hours browsing, eating, and taking care of all their shopping needs. A key feature of these stores is the ATM Corner, a dedicated area with multiple automated teller machines where shoppers can conveniently withdraw cash. In 2004, when this incident occurred, Japan was still very much a cash-based society, and ATMs in shopping centers were heavily utilized. The corner at the Yokkaichi Jusco was located inside the main shopping area, but in a somewhat secluded section. This placement made it a vulnerable spot for criminal activity, as it was busy enough that people wouldn't necessarily notice someone loitering, but isolated enough that a quick theft attempt might go unnoticed. Surveillance footage would later reveal that the woman who became known as the Phantom arrived at the ATM corner approximately 5 minutes before the elderly man appeared. She positioned herself in a corner near the machines, standing motionless with her back against the wall, her head down, appearing to be waiting or watching. The woman had an infant estimated to be between 1 and 3 years old strapped to her chest. Throughout these 5 minutes, the woman made no attempt to use the ATMs herself. She simply stood there waiting. As some time passed, the elderly man was seen approaching one of the machines and successfully withdrew cash from his account using his bank card. As the man turned to leave the ATM corner, the woman suddenly began to move. She lifted her head and walked directly toward him, deliberately bumping into his shoulder in what appeared to be a staged accidental collision. As she made contact with him, she ran her hands over his body, searching for his wallet and the cash he had just withdrawn. The man immediately realized what was happening and grabbed his wallet at the exact moment the woman's hand reached it. A struggle ensued as both held onto the wallet. The woman desperately tried to pry it from the elderly man's grasp, but despite his age, he held firm. Realizing she could not physically overpower him and steal his wallet, the woman changed tactics. She grabbed the man's arm and collar and began screaming thief. The woman's screams immediately drew the attention of shoppers and store employees. 3 men from the crowd rushed to the scene. When they arrived and saw a man grappling with a screaming young woman with a child, they instantly assumed that the man was the initiator in the situation. Without asking questions or attempting to understand what was actually happening, the three men immediately grabbed the elderly man and wrestled him to the ground. They pinned him down and attempted to pry the wallet from his hands to give it to the woman. The elderly man desperately tried to explain that he was innocent, that the woman had tried to rob him, that the wallet was his. He pleaded with them to listen, to check his identification, to look at the situation more carefully, but his pleas fell on deaf ears. The man clutched his wallet with such desperate force that 3 of his plastic bank cards snapped and broke in his hand. By chance, 2 young police officers were already at the shopping center responding to a separate shoplifting incident. When they heard the commotion, they immediately responded to the ATM corner. When the officers arrived on the scene, they made the same assumption the crowd had made. The officers immediately handcuffed the 68-year-old man and forced him to lie face down on the ground. They were described by witnesses as handling the situation with excessive aggression, particularly given the man's age and physical condition. What happened next would directly lead to the man's death. For approximately 20 minutes, the man was kept handcuffed and pinned to the ground with one of the police officers kneeling on top of him. Throughout this time, the man continued to protest his innocence. He tried to explain what had actually happened, that he was the victim, not the perpetrator. But the officers did not listen or investigate his claims. Eyewitnesses at the scene would later report that one of the officers was so aggressive in his handling of the victim that he broke the man's glasses. Witnesses also described hearing the man making sounds of distress that should have alerted the officers that something was seriously wrong. The stress of the situation, combined with the physical pressure of being forcibly restrained, caused the man's blood pressure to spike dangerously. After being held down for nearly 20 minutes, the man began vomiting and then lost consciousness entirely. His body had reached its breaking point. Despite these obvious signs of severe distress, the 25-year-old officer who had arrested him refused to remove the handcuffs or call for medical assistance. It was only when more experienced senior police officers arrived at the scene that anyone recognized the gravity of the situation. These officers immediately removed the handcuffs and called for an ambulance, but the damage had already been done. The man had suffered cardiac arrest. During the chaos and confusion of the struggle, the arrest, and the medical emergency, the woman who had started the entire incident simply walked away and vanished into the crowd. The 2 officers who had arrested the man were so focused on restraining him that they never thought to secure the alleged victim or get her statement. They didn't ask her name, they didn't get her contact information, and they didn't verify her story. By the time the more experienced officers arrived and asked where the woman was, she was long gone. Remarkably, despite the presence of numerous CCTV cameras throughout the shopping center, the woman was never captured on any footage leaving the building. It was as if she had simply vanished into thin air, leading some to speculate that she must have been familiar with the store layout and knew where the camera blind spots were located. The elderly man was eventually rushed to the hospital in critical condition. The following day, February 18th, 2004, he died. In what would become one of the most shocking aspects of this case, the day after the man's death, police filed criminal charges against him. This decision would haunt his family and taint his reputation for years to come. In Japanese culture, reputation and honor are of paramount importance, and the stigma of being accused of such a crime, particularly attacking a young mother with a baby, was devastating. The victim's family was outraged. They knew the man intimately and were absolutely certain that he would never have attacked a young woman and her baby. It was completely out of character for this gentle, kind-hearted retiree who had dedicated his life to his work, his family, and helping his community. The family immediately began pleading with police to reopen the case and investigate the mysterious woman. They insisted that she must have done something to provoke or initiate the altercation, and that their loved one was innocent. Initially, the police resisted these requests. They had closed the case and were apparently satisfied with their conclusion that the man had been a criminal who died while being lawfully apprehended. Eventually, after persistent pressure from the family and perhaps some internal doubts among certain officers, police agreed to review the CCTV footage from the incident. What they discovered completely upended their understanding of the case and revealed the truth. The footage made it absolutely clear that the woman was the aggressor and the would-be thief. The elderly man was completely innocent and had been defending himself and his property from a robbery attempt. Police investigators who reviewed the footage were described as being terrified by what they saw. Not only had they contributed to the death of an innocent man, but a criminal had escaped, and they had no idea who she was or where she had gone. With the truth revealed, police launched an investigation to identify and apprehend the woman. However, they faced immediate obstacles. Despite the woman having physically touched and handled the man's wallet and bank cards during the struggle, forensic examination revealed that she had left no fingerprints whatsoever on any surface. This suggested that she may have been wearing gloves or had taken some other precaution to avoid leaving physical evidence. Police searched through all available footage from throughout the shopping center, looking for images of the woman entering or exiting the building. Strangely, despite numerous cameras covering various exits and entrances, they could find no footage of her coming or going. Investigators theorized that the woman must have been local to the area and likely knew the layout of the building and ideal exit routes. The quality of the footage itself was quite poor, which significantly hampered the investigation. In 2005, 1 full year after the incident, police made the unusual decision to release 2 still images from the surveillance footage to the public. This delay was significant and controversial. According to reports, police had initially been hesitant to release the images because they found the woman's appearance in them so disturbing and unsettling that they feared it would frighten the public and potentially damage the Juice Co. brand. They worried that if people saw these eerie images associated with the shopping center, they might be afraid to shop there. This decision to wait a full year before releasing the images to the public severely hampered the investigation. By the time the images were made public, any potential witnesses would have had difficulty remembering details from an incident that had occurred 12 months earlier. When the 2 surveillance stills were finally released, they caused an immediate sensation. The images showed a woman with an appearance that many found deeply unsettling. In the most widely circulated image, the woman's face appears almost mask-like, with features that seem unnatural. The uncanny valley quality of the woman's appearance in these images led to widespread speculation online. Many commented that she didn't look fully human, and various theories emerged suggesting she might be wearing a mask, or that the image had been manipulated in some way before its release. Either way, the case ultimately went cold. As some time went by, a civil lawsuit was filed against the Mie Prefectural Police and the officers involved, seeking damages for wrongful death and demanding accountability for the excessive force used. Initially, the police attempted to minimize their liability by offering the family a mere $125, approximately 13,000 yen, in compensation. The family rejected this offer and continued their legal fight. In May 2011, the Nagoya High Court issued a landmark ruling in the case. The court formally recognized that the police officers had used excessive force in restraining the victim, ruled that the arrest and restraint had been unlawful, acknowledged that police actions had directly contributed to the man's death, and ordered the Mie Prefectural Police to pay approximately 350,000 USD in damages to the family. Despite the court ruling and the financial compensation, one thing the family desperately wanted never materialized, that being a formal public apology from the police department.
Song break. BRB.
You choose her or not choose wrong. With a skipper heart, she's one cool calm. Her DK. Donkey Kong. He has no style. He has no grace. This Kong has a funny face. He can handstand when he needs to and stretch his arms out just for you. Inflate himself just like a balloon. This crazy Kong just digs his tune. DK. Donkey Kong. DK. Donkey Kong. DK. Donkey Kong is here. He's back again and about time too. And this time, he's in the mood. He can fly real high with his jetpack on. With his pistols out, he's one tough con. He'll make you smile when he plays his tune. But gremlins beware, cause he's after you. Huh. DK, Donkey Kong. Huh. Finally, he's here for you. It's the last member of the DK crew. This Kong's so strong, it isn't funny. Can make a gremlin cry out for mommy. Can pick up a boulder with relative ease. Makes crushing rocks seem such a breeze. He may move slow, he can't jump high, but this Kong's one hell of a guy. Huh. Come on, Cranky, take it to the fridge. Walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells. Grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells. Grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells. Grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells. Grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells. Grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells. Grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells. Grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells. Grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells. Grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells. Grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells. Grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells. Grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells. Grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells. Grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells. Grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells. Grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells. Grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells. Grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells. Grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. You choose her or not choose one. With a skipper hop, she's one cool calm. Her DK, Donkey Kong. He has no style, he has no grace. This Kong has a funny face. He can handstand when he needs to and stretch his arms out just for you. Inflate himself just like a balloon. This crazy Kong just digs his tune. Huh, DK, Donkey Kong. Huh, DK, Donkey Kong. DK, Donkey Kong is here. He's back again and about time too. And this time, he's in the mood. He can fly real high with his jetpack on. With his pistols out, he's one tough con. He'll make you smile when he plays his tune. But gremlins beware, cause he's after you. Huh, DK, Donkey Kong. Huh. Finally, he's here for you. It's of the DK crew. This Kong's so strong, it isn't funny. Can make a gremlin cry out for mommy. Can pick up a boulder with relative ease. Makes crushing rocks seem such a breeze. He may move slow, he can't jump high, but this Kong's one hell of a guy. Huh. Come on, Cranky, take it to the bridge. Walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells, grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells, grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells, grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells, grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells, grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells, grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells, grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells, grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells, grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells, grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells, grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells, grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells, grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells, grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells, grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells, grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells, grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells, grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells, grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. You choose her or not choose wrong. With a skipper heart, she's one cool, calm, DK, Donkey Kong. He has no style, he has no grace. This Kong has a funny face. He can handstand when he needs to and stretch his arms out just for you. Inflate himself just like a balloon. This crazy Kong just digs his tune. DK, Donkey Kong. DK, Donkey Kong. DK, Donkey Kong is here. He's back again and about time too. And this time, he's in the mood. He can fly real high with his jetpack on, with his pistols out. He's one tough Kong. He'll make you smile when he plays his tune. But gremlins beware, cause he's after you. DK, Donkey Kong. Finally, he's here for you. It's the last member of the DK crew. This Kong's so strong, it isn't funny. Can make a gremlin cry out for mommy. Can pick up a boulder with relative ease. Makes crushing rocks seem such a breeze. He may move slow, he can't jump high, but this Kong's one hell of a guy. Come on, Cranky, take it to the bridge. Walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells. Grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells. Grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells. Grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells. Grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells. Grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells. Grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells. Grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut.
Back.
Kaliki Sari was born on December 6, 1935 in Isojoki, a small rural town in southern Ostrobothnia, Finland. She was the second youngest of 6 children born to Aino Sari, a farm manager, and Wilhelmina. The family lived in the village of Moiki, approximately 13 kilometers north of Isojoki's town center. The family lived modest lives, operating their farm during a post-war era. The household was characterized by strict religious observance, with Kaliki's father later describing their parenting philosophy as raising children with love and discipline. The family attended services regularly at the local Protestant church, where religious faith formed the cornerstone of their daily lives. Kaliki's sister Ali described her as having a muscular build and being quite strong enough that, quote, no weak man could have done such a thing to her, as Ali later remarked to investigators. According to her mother Wilhelmina, she was shy and reserved around strangers, but became relaxed, happy, and open when among friends and family. Other accounts describe her as having a kind and pleasant character, with approximately half a dozen close friends with whom she felt comfortable. She attended primary school in her local area before advancing to grammar school in the nearby town of Kauhajoki. However, her schooling was cut short when she suffered a serious bicycle accident that resulted in significant head injuries. This head trauma would later be cited by family members as a possible explanation for unusual behaviors observed on the day of her disappearance, including her uncharacteristic need to rest in the middle of the day. Following her recovery from the accident, Kaliki needed to find employment. During the summer of 1952, she worked as a housekeeper in the village of Kokemaki. In September of the same year, she began working at a church office employed by the local Protestant parish. This position brought her into regular contact with parish priest Kauko Kanervo, a relationship that would later become the subject of intense scrutiny and speculation. It should be noted that Kaliki was intensely committed to her Christian faith. She attended services multiple times per week and participated regularly in youth events organized by the Evangelical Youth Association. Her schedule revolved almost entirely around church-related activities rather than social events, especially after her accident. Due to the long distances Kaliki had to travel, her parents permitted her to occasionally spend the night at the church office when she became too tired to ride back home. They viewed this as a perfect solution and had complete trust in the pastor. However, this trust would later be called into question when disturbing details about Kanervo's character emerged. 3 days before her disappearance, Kaliki wrote a letter to Kanervo, who had been transferred to another parish in Marikarvia 3 weeks earlier. The letter was primarily concerned with religious matters and theological questions. However, some investigators and historians have suggested that certain passages could be interpreted as containing hidden meanings or coded messages, though this interpretation remains speculative and controversial. The true nature of the girl's relationship with Kanervo would not be fully revealed until years later. During initial interrogations, Kanervo vehemently denied any inappropriate relationship with the teenager. However, in 1956, when he was convicted of sexually assaulting a girl in a nearby town where he was then serving as vicar, Kanervo was questioned again about Kaliki. During this interrogation, he finally confessed that he had engaged in sexual relations with the girl 5 or 6 times, with the last encounter occurring at the end of April 1953, approximately 3 weeks before her disappearance. This revelation fundamentally changed the understanding of Kaliki's life and raised disturbing questions about whether she was a victim of ongoing abuse by a trusted authority figure. Skip over to Sunday, May 17th, 1953. The day was wet and dismal, but the persistent rain that fell throughout the morning did little to deter Kaliki from going to church to fulfill her obligations. Once she reached her destination, the morning service proceeded as usual, and Kaliki participated in the worship alongside other members. Among those present was a young man wearing a military uniform, which would be an important detail for later. Kaliki noticed this young man during the service, and something about his behavior made her uncomfortable. After the service concluded, Kaliki began her journey through the rain back home. When she finally arrived home around 1 p.m., she was completely drenched from head to toe. Despite being totally soaked, the girl was still in a good mood, laughing with her father as she entered the door. Afterward, she said that she was tired and wanted to go to her room to rest. This caught both her parents off guard, as this was the first time Kaliki has ever expressed being tired in the middle of the day. Her mother later told investigators that she believed her daughter's unusual tiredness might have resulted from a vaccination she had received a few days earlier on May 14th. Kaliki's sister Ali, however, offered a different explanation when questioned by police. She wondered whether the tiredness might be related to lingering effects from a serious bicycle accident Kaliki had suffered some years earlier. Ali speculated that these old head injuries might occasionally cause symptoms like fatigue or headaches, particularly under certain conditions of stress or physical activity. At 5 p.m., two of Kaliki's friends, Maiju and another girl named Salmi, arrived at the Sari family home. The girls had made plans earlier in the week to attend a religious youth event that evening. These plans had been discussed on the previous Thursday, May 14th, the same day Kaliki had received her vaccination. However, when the subject of attending the event had come up on Thursday, Kaliki had seemed uncertain and uncommitted about whether she would actually go. She revealed that she had head pain that became more intense when she bent down. As a result, she didn't commit to attending the event, instead stating that she will see how she felt later on. By Sunday afternoon, Kaliki confirmed that she would attend the gathering despite how she was feeling. The event was being held by the Evangelical Youth Association at a public school building located 13 kilometers from Kaliki's home. This distance meant another substantial bike ride. At 6 p.m., she left her home on her bicycle, beginning the journey. As she prepared to leave, she realized that her mittens were still wet from the morning's rain-soaked ride to church. Rather than wear damp mittens or go without, she borrowed a pair from her sister. Additionally, she asked her sister to borrow her black and red chiffon scarf, which would become a key piece of evidence in the investigation. The plan Kaliki had arranged with her friend Maiju was to meet at the Derry Crossroads at 6:30 p.m., a major intersection on the route between their respective homes and their destination. From there, they would continue the journey together to the event. However, there was a breakdown in communication somewhere in this plan. The girls missed each other at the crossroads, each apparently arriving at slightly different times or perhaps taking slightly different routes to the meeting point. Without the ability to communicate once they were on the road, the missed connection meant they would have to continue their journey separately until they could reunite. Fortunately, both girls were heading to the same location, and they eventually met up when they both arrived at Kortinkila. Despite the initial miscommunication, they were able to attend the event together as originally planned. In later discussions with police, Maiju would share that Kaliki seemed unsettled the entire day, appearing both distracted and nervous. There were numerous other teenagers and young adults present at the event, and the night proceeded without much hindrance. When the activities ended at 10 p.m., Kaliki and Maiju did not immediately depart for home. Instead, they went into the nearby courtyard where hot drinks were being served by the son of a local farmer. It was during this time in the courtyard that Kaliki began to openly voice her feelings of anxiety. She voiced her fears to several people present, explaining that she was frightened about traveling home alone so late at night. The previous winter, she had been skiing back through the forest on her own when something or perhaps someone had spooked her severely. The exact nature of what frightened her was never clearly established. Whatever the cause, the fear had been intense enough that she had stopped her journey entirely, sought out the nearest house, and called her father to come collect her rather than continue home alone. She knew there was a wedding taking place somewhere in the vicinity that night, and she worried about encountering drunk, violent, or unpredictable wedding guests along the lonely forest path. Rural Finnish weddings were notorious for heavy drinking, and the celebrations often continued late into the night, with guests wandering or driving on country roads in various states of inebriation. Another friend who was present at the youth meeting named Serka heard Kaliki's fear and offered her a stay at her home for the night. It seemed like the perfect answer to her anxiety. However, Kaliki refused the invitation. She explained that she needed to go home that night in order to change her clothes in preparation for work the next morning. After declining the invitation, Kaliki said that she would simply smile and bear it. With their decision made, the two girls set off on their bikes to begin the ride home. Despite the fact that it was past 10 p.m. when they departed, it was still light outside. The route home first took the two friends past a bank building. At that time, due to renovations and repairs being conducted at the parsonage, this bank building was temporarily being used as the vicar's office, making it in effect part of Kaliki's workplace. The pair then came to the edge of the forest, the point where the road began to transition from the more populated village area into the isolated woodland that covered much of the route between where they left and their homes. It was at this point that they encountered 3 teenage boys. These 3 boys jokingly pretended to prevent the girls from passing. The girls eventually managed to get past the boys and continue on their way. However, one of the 3 boys, notably wearing a military uniform, began following behind them. This boy in the uniform was the same young man Kaliki had noticed earlier that day at the church service. His behavior at church had already unsettled her, and now here he was again, following her and her friend along a darkening, isolated road. In response to being followed, the girls pedaled faster, but the recent heavy rains had left the ground waterlogged and muddy, making the cycling difficult. Maiju was pedaling so vigorously in her effort that her skirt became caught between the frame of her bicycle and the rear wheel, effectively immobilizing the bicycle and forcing both girls to stop. The boy in uniform caught up with them during the stop and asked them what the problem was. Once Maiju's skirt was finally freed from the bicycle chain, the 2 girls immediately continued on their way without further conversation with the boy. At this point, the boy did not try to follow them again or continue pursuing them. Instead, he simply stood there and stared as the 2 girls disappeared into the distance. This boy became a person of interest in the investigation, though apparently his identity was established and he was ruled out as a suspect through alibi verification and other means. Eventually, the 2 girls reached the crossroads where they had missed each other earlier that evening. From this point forward, Kaliki would face approximately 6 kilometers of solo cycling through increasingly isolated terrain to reach her home. Before setting off, Kaliki said the following to her friend: "I'm sure I'll be fine from here on as I've been before, bye then Maiju." After separating, Kaliki was seen one last time by a 46-year-old witness named Jacko around 10:40 p.m. approximately 1.5 kilometers from her home. He did not speak to the young woman as he was in a hurry to get home quickly because his wife was sick and he wanted to return to care for her. He also mentioned that Kaliki was moving pretty quickly despite riding slightly uphill. Furthermore, Jacko shared that he did not notice any suspicious activity occurring around him except for a rental car driven by a 42-year-old man heading in the same direction as Kaliki. But this driver was later ruled out of any involvement in the case. What happened to Kaliki in that final stretch remains partially unclear. Based on the location where Jacko saw her and the spot where her body would eventually be found, along with witness testimony about hearing a scream, a general timeline and sequence of events can be established. A local resident named Hilma, who lived near the presumed attack site, provided testimony about what she heard that night. According to her statement to police, at 12:30 a.m. on May 18th, approximately 2 hours after Jacko had seen Kaliki, Hilma went outside for a routine checkup on her cows. While outside, she heard a voice shout what sounded like, "For God's sake, come and help." Hilma stated definitively that the voice was not a man's voice, but she could not determine with certainty whether it was a woman's voice or a child's voice. The following morning, Kaliki's family awoke to discover that her bed had not been slept in. However, this discovery did not immediately trigger panic or a missing person report. Her parents stated that they were a little worried by this, but they did not immediately assume the worst. Instead, they assumed that Kyllikki had stayed overnight with a friend and had then gone directly to work at the church office. When Kyllikki did not return home later that day, the family's concern grew considerably. However, even then, they still hesitated to contact authorities. It was not until 8 p.m. on Tuesday, May 19th, more than 48 hours after Kyllikki was last seen alive, that her parents finally took action. They phoned the local priest to ask whether their daughter had been at work, to which the priest shared that their daughter had not been seen at work for the past 2 days. Only after receiving this confirmation did the family contact the police, and Kyllikki was officially reported missing. By the time authorities were alerted, any physical evidence at the attack site had potentially been disturbed by weather, animals, or other travelers. The trail had effectively gone cold. By Wednesday morning, May 20th, approximately 30 volunteers from the local community had begun searching the road between the various towns, focusing particularly on the stretch between the Sari family home and the crossroads where the girls went their separate ways. The following day, the search expanded dramatically as more than 500 additional volunteers joined the effort. The news of the missing girl had spread throughout the region, and people from the surrounding areas came to help look for her. By Saturday, May 23rd, the search had extended to include nearby fields, moving beyond just the road and its immediate vicinity. Despite the efforts, the initial searches yielded no results. After more than 2 months of fruitless searching, a breakthrough came on July 22nd. 2 local residents were picking cloudberries in the woods when they came across a bicycle partially submerged in a swampy area in the Lelunsuo area. The bicycle was identified as belonging to Kyllikki. However, several aspects of its condition puzzled investigators. Despite having been outdoors for approximately 2 months, the bicycle appeared to be in relatively good condition. Interestingly, the air had been deliberately let out of both tires by removing the valve stems. The handlebar had also been twisted so that it was parallel to the frame rather than perpendicular, a modification that would make the bicycle easier to carry or conceal. Then, after about 3 more months, one of Kyllikki's shoes was discovered wrapped in her sister's black and red scarf. Most intriguingly, also bundled with these items was a man's sock, all 3 items tied together with black woolen thread. Close examination of the scarf revealed teeth marks embedded in the fabric, strongly suggesting it had been used as a gag to silence Kyllikki during her ordeal. These items appear to have been placed at their discovery location relatively recently, not at the time of the murder. Just as with the bicycle, searchers had combed this area multiple times during the summer without finding these objects, suggesting that they were brought to the site afterward. The day after the shoe and scarf were found, a member of the search party made another disturbing discovery. While searching through the bog area, he noticed a dry, sharpened branch protruding from the swamp. The stick appeared deliberately placed, standing upright from the ground in a way that seemed unnatural. When the searcher pulled on the stick, it came loose, and an overwhelming stench emerged from the hole. The stick had been marking the location of Kyllikki's grave. Her partially decomposed remains lay in a shallow bog grave about 50 centimeters deep. The discovery location was only 200 meters from the road where Kyllikki was last seen. It was also only 50 meters from a ditch digging site where 2 local men who would become prime suspects had been working on a drainage project. The overall construction of the grave led investigators to conclude that the perpetrator likely had experience in excavation work, military engineering, or professional grave digging. The grave was too well made to be the panicked work of an inexperienced killer. By October 11th, 1953, Kyllikki's body was transported to an operating room for examination. Her left cheekbone was fractured, and there were other significant facial injuries. Based on the visible trauma, it was concluded that the cause of death was likely blunt force trauma to the head and face. It could not definitively be determined whether assault had occurred due to the condition of the remains, though the positioning of the body and the absence of lower clothing suggested a possible motive. Significantly, the autopsy confirmed that Kalicki had not been pregnant at the time of her death, dispelling one of the early rumors that had circulated through the community. Further examination and laboratory tests revealed the internal organs showed evidence of wounds consistent with a bladed weapon, specifically stab wounds that appeared to have been made with a traditional Finnish utility knife. Decades later, when previously classified or suppressed case files were made more widely available, additional information about the cause of death emerged. Armas Pajuluoma, who had assisted with the autopsy, later told journalist Enska Kallio details that had been intentionally withheld from public knowledge in 1953. According to Armas, the actual cause of death was suffocation. He also confirmed to Kallio that the girl had been raped before her death. For a period of time, investigators showed interest in some glass fragments that were found on the road near the location where Kalicki likely encountered her attacker. These fragments were initially thought to be from a broken headlight, leading to speculation that Kalicki might have been struck by a vehicle. However, subsequent investigation revealed complications with this theory. The milkmen Oskari and Vilho Forsby, who drove past the area on the morning of May 18th, reported seeing broken glass, but they specifically stated it was from a broken lemonade bottle and was located in the ditch beside the road, not on the road surface itself. Later, a different report emerged about glass on the road that might have been from a car headlight, but no motorist ever came forward to report an accident or collision in that location. Investigators eventually theorized that the glass might have been a deliberate plant, a staged element designed to make authorities believe Kalicki had been the victim of a hit-and-run accident. Another witness, an anonymous car driver, reported seeing two women's shoes on Pantane Road around the time of the disappearance. This driver also claimed to see two men either cycling or walking on the same road. Approximately 10 minutes later, a second car driver passed through the same area and reported finding no shoes on the road. This gap of roughly 10 minutes raised several possibilities. First, the shoes had been collected by someone, possibly the men seen by the first driver, or second, the shoes belonged to Kalicki and were removed by her attacker. It's also possible that the entire situation was just misreported. Kalicki's father later mentioned this shoe sighting in interviews, suggesting the family found it significant. In the early 1990s, decades after the murder, a man named Paavo Granholm came forward with a memory from the time period shortly after the incident. Granholm reported that his group had encountered a frightened-looking man riding a women's bicycle on Pantane Road. What struck Granholm as particularly suspicious was that when the cyclist saw the group, he deliberately turned his face away to avoid being identified. This sighting was never properly investigated at the time, and by the 1990s, it was too late to pursue this lead effectively. However, it suggested the possibility that the killer had used Kalicki's bicycle to transport himself away from the crime scene before later disposing of it in the swamp. One of the primary suspects was a man named Vittori Lemusviita. At the time of the crime, Vittori was a 38-year-old local man who lived within 1 to 2 kilometers of both the crime scene and Kalicki's home. He worked various odd jobs, primarily ditch digging and manual labor, which kept him physically strong and gave him extensive knowledge of the local terrain. He fit the criminal profile created by investigators remarkably well. The profile described the killer as likely being a loner, over 30 years old, probably local to the area, displaying unusual or strange behavior. In the 1940s, he had been convicted of a crime. Additionally, he had been known to engage in voyeuristic behavior, specifically peeping at women through sauna windows. During World War II, Vittori had served in the Winter War against the Soviet Union, during which he suffered psychological trauma. According to later evaluations, during the conflict, Vittori lost control in a rage and shot himself in the leg. This incident suggested severe emotional instability even during his military service. After the war, he developed significant mental health problems and was diagnosed with bipolar disorder and PTSD. The most damning circumstantial evidence against Vittori was his intimate connection to the crime scene itself. He and his brother-in-law shared a common working field located just 50 meters from where Kalicki's body was buried. They were actively engaged in a ditch digging project in this exact area. He knew every meter of the terrain, understood the bog's characteristics, and would have known exactly where and how to hide a body in that landscape. He also would have had ready access to tools and the opportunity to visit the gravesite repeatedly without arousing suspicion. According to witnesses, he was heard making statements suggesting he had knowledge of the girl's fate. Most notably, when questioned by police, Vittori allegedly stated that she is no longer alive, and that, quote, her body will never be found. These statements were made weeks before the body was actually discovered. Later, he retracted these statements, claiming he had been misunderstood or that his words had been misinterpreted due to his confused mental state. Given his documented mental health issues, this was plausible, but the statements remained deeply suspicious. On multiple occasions, he came close to confessing. Commissioner Axel Skogman, one of the lead investigators, conducted an intensive interrogation during which Vittori appeared to be on the verge of admitting his involvement. Axel later reportedly said it was by a hair's breadth that Vittori did not confess. On another occasion, after surviving the interrogation, Vittori contacted one of the local police officers, stating that he wanted to confess something. When the meeting was arranged, however, he again withdrew and refused to speak. Down the line, several of his family members provided an alibi, but this was obviously problematic as his relatives wanted to protect Vittori. Additionally, during the investigation, he was also accused by others of young women in the area, but ultimately, he was never formally charged with any crimes related to Kalicki. As for the previously mentioned priest who had a sexual relationship with the girl, he also was never formally charged with any crimes. The relationship almost certainly constituted abuse, but Canervo spun it in a way where it seemed consensual. He provided an alibi that changed significantly over time. Initially, he claimed that he had been at a church event in Marikarvia and had spent the late night hours in the parsonage. However, when Canervo was questioned again in 1956, following his conviction for assaulting another girl, his story changed dramatically. He now claimed that he had actually been in bed with his 24-year-old maid for the entire night. The maid corroborated this new version of events, though investigators noted that she appeared nervous and uncomfortable during questioning. In the end, despite having several compelling suspects, they could not be determined to be responsible for the death of Kyllikki with 100% certainty. And under Finnish law, homicide cases never expire, meaning the case technically remains open even after 7 decades. This case takes us to Essex, England, where a woman named Jennifer Cronin had a daughter named Susan. The two were extremely close. Susan really looked up to her mother ever since she was a child and wanted her to be proud and approve of her choices. This included finding a husband. So around the late 80s, early 90s, when Susan was working as a hairdresser, she met a construction worker named Kieran Lynch, who was 3 years older than herself. And Susan really loved Kieran. He seemed like a caring man that was also hardworking. Susan thought that she and Kieran could do an amazing job raising a family, but Susan had to make sure that her parents, specifically her mother Jennifer, also liked Kieran, and she did. Ultimately, Kieran and Susan got married in the mid-90s and had 2 daughters named Matilda and Molly. For a while, the Lynches seemed like an ideal family with 2 loving parents and children who loved them back. Even Jennifer was frequently visiting her granddaughters, who couldn't wait to see her each time. But little did anyone know that what was seen on the outside did not reflect the internal workings of the relationship between Kieran and Susan. You see, Kieran was someone who not only wanted but felt that he needed to excel at everything he did. This led him down a path of working long and physically taxing work hours every single week. In Kieran's mind, he felt that this was the bare minimum in order to provide his family with a proper life. And as you could imagine, Kieran was often mentally and physically exhausted, leading to outbursts of rage at home. At first, this manifested through yelling and smashing objects. When the stress was too much for Kieran to handle, he would resort to alcohol, which didn't do anything for the man except make his situation worse. At times, he would even lash out against his family, the very people that he was working so hard to support. So on the mornings after one of his violent fits, he would apologize to his wife and kids and say that he will do better. But time after time, Kieran just slipped back into these bouts of anger. Susan started asking herself how Kieran went from such a kind man to someone so unstable. She hoped that with time, Kieran would eventually return to his past self, so she didn't tell anyone about his violent outbursts in fear that someone might report him to authorities. The daughters also seemed to understand their mother's sentiment and tried their best to comfort her. When friends and family of Susan's would ask about how her husband was doing, she would tell lies in order to hide the stressful situation that she was in. But these lies only worked temporarily. One day, one of Susan's friends was out and about and saw a man that looked strikingly similar to Kieran. So she tapped a guy on the back and asked, "Is that you, Kieran?" And when the man turned around, she kinda jumped a bit. The man had an extremely lean and haggard appearance, but she could tell that this was indeed Kieran. As a result of his poor mental health and stress, Kieran had lost an immense amount of weight. But along with the stress, there was another factor to blame for his drastic change in appearance. Sometime in 2014 to 2015, Susan was doing the laundry and was in the process of emptying the pockets of Kieran's work uniform. And inside one of these pockets, she found a tube of an illegal white substance amongst other items. Again, Susan was well aware of the hardships Kieran was going through and the stress he was dealing with, but she had no idea that Kieran was using such substances. Susan didn't know what to do next, but eventually confronted Kieran about her discovery. Kieran was furious at first, but begged her not to tell their kids about this. Susan agreed that keeping the kids out of this discussion would probably be the best option, but she wanted Kieran to seek professional help so that they could put an end to all of this drama. Kieran just remained silent with no response. Over the following weeks, Susan started noticing large transactions on her credit card statements and knew that Kieran was the one behind them. She confronted her husband about these purchases, but she was met with animosity. And it was at this point where the relationship really turned for the worst. There was of course violence in the past, but now Kieran was threatening Susan's life as well as his own. Susan was getting to the point where she felt as though she was backed into a corner with no options. She really wanted to tell her mother Jennifer about this and get her advice, but deep down she felt that if she involved her mother, she might be in danger as well. So Susan knew that if drastic measures weren't taken, something bad was eventually going to happen. So she ended up parting ways with Kieran after over 2 decades of marriage. Susan deeply cared for Kieran despite all the hardships the two had been through, and Kieran was reluctant to say goodbye, but later agreed that this was probably the best choice for both of them and their children. For a few years, Susan and her children really enjoyed their new lives. There was never the stress of wondering whether Kieran might come home one night angry, and the former couple occasionally talked to each other, but over time, this became more and more rare. Eventually, Susan had completely moved on from Kieran and met a new man named Mike. And I should mention, Susan and Kieran hadn't gone through an official divorce yet. The two had simply agreed that they would go off and live separate lives. So Susan called Kieran one day to organize a meetup and discuss her intentions to officially divorce. She informed Kieran that she had met a new man and was really happy with him, and their daughters Matilda and Molly also seemed to like him as well. And Kieran seemed to be genuinely happy for Susan and their daughters. He agreed to sign the divorce, and the two spent the day catching up with each other. Susan told Kieran that he was going to find another woman soon to spend his life with. Right as Susan's life seemed to be going perfectly, it did a complete 180. On January 11th, 2018, Susan was bombarded with angry and violent text messages sent by Kieran. In stark contrast to their meeting, Kieran was now threatening Susan's life. He demanded $60,000 in cash in return for his signature on the divorce papers. Kieran added, saying that he left everything else to Susan, so the least she could do is give him this money. But before Susan could de-escalate the situation, Kieran had showed up to her home. He was on the patio with a hammer, smashing everything in sight. Susan immediately ran to find a place to hide and then called police. But when they arrived, Kieran was nowhere to be seen. Susan explained the situation to authorities, stating that Kieran had a bad history with alcohol and other substances, and that they may be the cause for this attack. Right as police were about to leave, Kieran showed up again and tried to get inside of the home, but obviously police stopped that from happening. At first, police were actually about to let Kieran go, but after he started flailing around and shoving the officers, he was arrested. As they handcuffed him and sat him down in their cruiser, he started shouting obscenities towards Susan, who was watching the whole event unfold from her patio. Kieran was facing 3 charges consisting of possessing a dangerous weapon, causing property damage, and displaying life-threatening behavior. A little over 2 weeks later, on the 29th, Kieran was granted bail and told to not go anywhere near Susan, her daughters, or the home. But Kieran didn't listen to this at all. He constantly called Susan's phone as well as their daughters' phones. Susan stated that between the 3, they would receive anywhere from 80 to 100 calls or texts a day. Kieran even showed up to the home a few times as well. Even after informing authorities that Kieran was violating his bail conditions, he was never arrested. Kieran even called emergency services, saying that he was going to end it all, but he was too scared. Authorities rushed to his location to defuse the situation, and they were successful. They suggested that Kieran talk to a professional therapist as soon as possible, and he agreed. Then, the very next day, he was back to his antics of messing with his former family. He did things like sneak into the garage of Susan's residence and turn off the power, and then throw various items around in the front yard. Kieran even started visiting his former mother-in-law Jennifer's home and knocking on her windows before fleeing. Once again, Susan called authorities, stating that not only was her life in danger, but her daughters and her mother's as well. But police more or less disregarded her concerns, saying that Kieran was no real threat and that this was normal for couples going
Police
through
so
divorce.
useless.
Then, unexpectedly, Kieran started hurling charged messages towards his own daughters. After Susan told police about this, they told her to leave home and spend a few days somewhere else. So Susan took Matilda and stayed the night at a friend's house, while Molly was sent off to stay with her grandma, Jennifer. On the first night that Molly was sent to Jennifer's, she received several phone calls, all of which were silent. Nobody responded at all when Jennifer asked if anyone was on the other end. Then, around 2 a.m., Molly noticed what looked to be a man in the backyard. Jennifer and Molly hid inside the house and called police, while also spam texting Susan's phone, telling her that Kieran might be there. The police said that they were understaffed, so there would be a delay in sending someone over. But luckily, nothing had happened that night. An officer did a brief search of the property, but found no signs of Kieran.
Cops are so
Then,
useless.
Fast forward to March 13th, 2018, this entire case comes to its peak. Susan stopped by her mother's home to pick up Molly. She comforted and reassured assured her mother that they would be fine in the end. Jennifer lived alone after her husband died several years ago. Jennifer wasn't so much worried for herself, but more so for Susan and her kids. While Jennifer was out in her garden with her dog, Susan and Molly were inside the home preparing some drinks. Then out of nowhere, Kieran comes out charging towards Jennifer. It was around 10:50 to 11 a.m. when this occurred. As Kieran came face to face with his former mother-in-law, he started dousing her in petrol while calling her all of these terrible names. Susan witnessed all of this happening from a window and called police, who advised her to create as much distance from Kieran as possible. Susan sprinted out of the home with her daughter, but realizing that she couldn't leave her mother behind, Susan went back to try and help her. But right as she came into view of Kieran and her mother, Kieran poured what remained of the fluid on himself and sparked a lighter. Instantly, he and Jennifer caught fire. The fire was reported, and alongside police arrived firefighters. When the fire had subsided, both Kieran and Jennifer were on the brink of death. Susan used these exact words to describe Kieran. He looked like pink charred meat. She also shared in a later interview that she believed Kieran targeted her mother because he knew that it would hurt her more than killing anyone else. He knew how close I was to my mom, and he knew how much we meant to each other, and I think it was the biggest way of hurting me. So Kieran and Jennifer were transported to the hospital. Ultimately, they both succumbed to their wounds and died. Matilda and Molly still had that image of their father being a kind, hard-working man, so it was tough for them to accept the horrible crime he had just committed. When they visited him in the hospital, his entire face was unrecognizable. 72-year-old Jennifer had similar injuries to Kieran all along her body. And at first, doctors thought that there was a slight chance that they could save her, but as I just shared, they did end up failing. She was able to fight on for about 2 weeks before ultimately dying on the 30th. Her injuries were just way too severe. Susan stated that her mother had lost all of her hair due to the attack, but despite how gruesome her end was, Susan said that she looked so serene in her last moments. In January of 2019, it was determined that Jennifer was unlawfully killed and Kieran had died by Law enforcement has faced immense scrutiny from the public with this case. Despite knowing about Kieran's unstable mental health and tumultuous relationship with various substances, they never took the necessary steps to ensure that he was of no harm. So this next case is also foreign, but this one takes place in Sweden and it has very scarce details available in English, so I had to translate some Swedish articles and sources to research. I tried to look over a bunch of different translated readings to make sure the details were correct, but there might be a few things that got lost in translation. Lisa Holm is the name of a 17-year-old girl in Sweden who mysteriously disappeared in June of 2015. As more and more details were unraveled about her case, it was soon realized that Lisa was a tragic victim of a terrible and violent act. Lisa was born on February 7th, 1998 and grew up in Skavda. Lisa was like any other teenager who enjoyed spending time with friends and family. She was kind, and her mother described her as an immensely caring and compassionate young woman. Around the time when she graduated from high school, she found a job at a cafe located in Blomberg, which was about 30 to 40 minutes from her home. Lisa had plans to go to university the following school year and pursue a degree in social sciences. At this age, young adults tend to look for more time and opportunities to act as individuals. Lisa was no different. Her father had purchased his moped for her to use to get to and from work. And like any parent, this particular stage is very worrisome for them, so Lisa's dad accompanied her to work for the first few weeks just to make sure that there weren't any issues. So by June 7th, both of Lisa's parents were comfortable with her making the journey to work alone. Lisa reached the cafe without issue and her shift proceeded as expected. Lisa, along with a couple of her co-workers, were responsible for closing up the shop. So after they were done wiping down all the equipment and cleaning up the floors, Lisa sent a text to her dad at about 6:20 p.m. This was the first time that Lisa went out on her own, so she just wanted to let her parents know that everything was fine and she was on her way back now. Her mom and dad were relieved to hear that there were no issues and told Lisa that they looked forward to hearing about her day. Again, the drive from Skavda, Lisa's home, and Blomberg, the location of the cafe, should have taken Lisa no longer than 40 or so minutes to finish. finish. So once the clock struck 7:30, Lisa's dad started to worry. He called Lisa's phone over and over and over, but no one picked up. He didn't even want to think about the possibility that something bad had happened. So he just got on the path to Blomberg, hoping that he would cross paths with Lisa at some point down the road. However, at no point in the actual drive did he see Lisa. So he went ahead and completed the journey all the way to the cafe in Blomberg, and there it was, Lisa's moped. Instantly, the father felt this sense of release course through his body, so he goes inside of the cafe and looks for Lisa, but he just can't seem to find her. He tells the manager that he's looking for his daughter, Lisa Holm, but they tell him that she left. Now it became clear that something was definitely wrong. The manager realizes that Lisa is missing, so while her father searches the area, the manager contacts police. Outside, Lisa's dad realized that the keys were still in the moped. He couldn't think of any good scenario where Lisa would intentionally leave her keys behind, so his mind shifted to the possibility of Lisa being abducted. Both police and Lisa's family searched for her for several days but couldn't find her. What they did find were her phone case, a receipt, a ticket, and a phone screen that had been destroyed. There was also a glove that was located in this barn that was nearby the cafe. But the strange thing about this glove was that the barn it was found in was actually searched the first day that Lisa went missing, but it wasn't found until a day or two later. All of these items were confirmed to belong to Lisa. Then on Wednesday the 10th, more items of Lisa's were found. These included some earrings and her license. The earrings were found in that same barn where her glove was found, and it was on this day that authorities finally released Lisa's name to the public. You see, the days prior, investigators actually kept Lisa's name a secret and only revealed that there was a teenage girl that had gone missing on the 7th of June. After Lisa's identity was made public, a massive search party of over 1,000 people came forward to help search, and one of these volunteers decided to give that barn another search, and he found human excrement. Authorities, for whatever reason, believe that this was from whoever abducted Lisa. With this new and improved larger search party, a lot more ground could be covered. One group of volunteers decided to take a look at a nearby farm, but right as they were pulling up to it, two people came out to them and said, "Hey, we already searched the spot and there's nothing." So the group trusted them and left. But later on, a couple of people from that group said that the two people that confronted them were really suspicious. So they told police about them and they searched the area anyway. Hidden among some branches, they found Lisa's jacket and helmet, and nearby was this sort of rundown shed/trailer that looked almost abandoned. Authorities set their sights there to search next, and immediately after opening the door, this foul odor just burst through that opening. There was one part of the trailer that seemed to grab everyone's attention. In one corner were these lockers, and they were all closed except for one. The one locker left open seemed to be filled with clothing and other items. Investigators got closer and started pulling back some of the clothes, and then they saw her, Lisa. Lisa's lifeless body had been hidden away behind all of the various items in that locker. Part of her clothing had been removed, and there was also a rope around her neck. Additionally, someone had placed tape across her mouth. Investigators were able to find foreign DNA on Lisa, as well as on the items they recovered that day. Now, this particular area, specifically the land where the barn and this shed/trailer were, is called the Martorp Estate, and there is also a home on the property which housed two brothers and one of their wives. The brothers were Lithuanian citizens, and to my understanding, they were simply working on the farm. Authorities ended up arresting the trio, and after some investigation into them, one of the brothers matched the DNA found on Lisa. This brother's name was Nerijus Belevichus. He was born on March 3rd, 1980, putting him in his mid-30s at the time of the crime. So I'd like to go back and discuss the barn. Again, some information may have been skewed with translation, and I believe this is the case with the barn. But if you recall, I stated that there were various items found within the barn, but it took several visits on different days to thoroughly investigate this barn. And from the pictures and video I saw of it, I just just didn't understand why that was the case. It didn't seem like it was massive from the outside, and from the pictures that I saw of the inside, it wasn't exactly like there were hidden rooms or anything. But anyways, what I wanted to talk about was that after authorities had arrested Nerejuice, they went back to the barn and stated that there was a room inside that overlooked the cafe where Lisa worked. And again, this wasn't some hidden room, it was just there in plain sight. In this room, there was this window that could watch people coming in and out of the cafe. On both that window and the wall right underneath it, investigators found Nerejuice's bodily fluids all dried up, some of which had been discolored and had been there for a very long time. And it was either a news outlet or people in the public that later dubbed this the milking room. Lisa's co-workers told police that they actually saw Nerejuice and his brother looking at them through that window almost every day. But of course, they had no idea what they were doing, so they thought nothing of it. In that room, there was also a piece of rope tied to this pipe coming out of the wall that also had traces of Lisa's DNA. When medical officials inspected Lisa's body, they didn't find any signs of rape. If you recall, there was Nerejuice's DNA found on Lisa, but that's it, only on her. So investigators tried to piece together what exactly happened, because Nerejuice was really hard to deal with. Despite the staggering amount of evidence against him, he denied being the culprit. The following scenario is what police believed happened. When Lisa was leaving for work, Nerejuice attacked Lisa before she could ride off. He moved her to the barn and then to that disgusting room where he had Lisa suspended by that pipe. Investigators do believe that Nerejuice had the intention of Lisa, but he got too quote-unquote excited, hence the DNA on her body. And it was in that moment that Lisa lost her life after running out of oxygen. From there, Nerejuice had no interest in the girl anymore, so he moved her to that locker in that little rundown shed. Initially, Nerejuice, his brother, and his wife all gave alibis, but eventually his brother did give in and reveal the details of the crime. According to him, Nerejuice had come home on the night when Lisa disappeared and went straight to the washing machine. He tossed his pants, shirt, socks, everything inside. Nerejuice then told his brother that a girl had just gone missing and that since they were both Lithuanian and really close to where she worked, they would be suspected of being the ones responsible. So the two needed to come up with alibis that would fool the police. Nerejuice didn't actually tell his brother that he killed Lisa. Nerejuice went on trial in November of 2015 and was ultimately sentenced to life in prison. During his trial, it was revealed that Nerejuice had a lot of dark and sadistic on his computer, which may have played a role in leading to his decision to attack Lisa. Prosecutors stated that Nerejuice suspending Lisa in the barn may have been something he had seen in one of his videos. In a somewhat shocking turn of events, Nerejuice's lawyers actually tried to shift the blame to his brother, saying that he had framed Nerejuice for the crime, but this obviously fell apart. The rest of Nerejuice's family seemed to be innocent. And one more detail before we move on to some closing statements is that during the time when Lisa first went missing, there was this YouTube video posted to a channel called Lisa Holm. It was titled 13 and the video showed a countdown, but the video ended before the timer could actually run all the way out. It was believed that the owner of this channel was Lisa's abductor at the time, and once that timer ran out completely, some big reveal with Lisa's whereabouts was going to be revealed. But it turned out that this entire YouTube channel was a sick prank, and I believe the original video and channel are gone, but there is a re-upload. So in 2016, Nerejuice was locked up in a prison located within Sweden, but in 2017, he was transferred to Lithuania, and he actually won an appeal apparently when he was transferred, which changed the sentence to 15 years. But then this was later retracted and he was yet again given a life sentence. So thank God. But not like this would really matter, because in 2022, Nerejuice was actually killed by another inmate. Officials did attempt to transport him to a hospital, but he was DOA. Apparently, Nerejuice faced constant harassment from other inmates while he was still imprisoned in Sweden, and this justified bullying, I guess you could call it, continued even after his transfer. It's rumored that at one point, someone dumped hot water that was borderline boiling on top of him.
Good. I don't think I'm gone too much longer. I'm getting tired. No time for a game.
Alright, so today we're talking about the supposed creepiest YouTube video ever, which is actually just gone. This case is pretty recent. Normally I'd cover more than like one lost media topic in a video, but this one deserves its own deep dive because there's just so much weird detail, so I'm not gonna waste your time, let's just get into it. Let's start at the beginning. On October 24th, 2022, a YouTuber called Watch Data, you've maybe seen their infographic, they have over 1 billion views on YouTube, uploaded a video called Comparison, the creepiest videos on YouTube. You know these infographics, which are basically just charts that basically count down some things from a certain topic from most to least, or least to most, or like smallest to biggest. And yeah, you got the gist of it. These genre of videos have been around for a pretty long time. So in this video, as you could assume from the title, it's just a countdown from the biggest, most viewed scary clips at the top to the smallest, most obscure ones at the bottom. In the countdown, there are videos like, the Alyssa Lamb footage, the Little Baby's ice cream ad, Username 666, Obey the Walrus, I Feel Fantastic, and then we count down to more obscure videos like Bigfoot sighting, this video with the Indonesian ghost creature thing, you've maybe seen it, Movie Recording 21, a 635 view video at the time, where a woman records herself crying for a minute and a half. I don't really know why this is on this video either, like is this supposed to be creepy? I guess that's a topic for another day. Then we get to the end, the most obscure creepy video on YouTube according to Watch Data, and that's where Play 2 appears. Watch Data shows the uploader as Mother8538. And says it only had 77 total views. Underneath, they add a single cryptic line. The user gives the viewer a hard warning that the worst is yet to come. And the thumbnail, it's just a hand holding a disposable lighter over what looks like a patterned carpet. There's nothing else, no more context. Just that lighter. But here's the thing, Watch Data put links in their description to all the videos they featured. Every other link still works, and Play 2 is the only dead link, it's the only deleted one. After that video dropped, people got justifiably curious. They started searching up the uploader, Mother8538, and for a little while, the channel was actually still live. According to people who clicked fast enough, it had 5 videos in total. The titles were super minimal. They were Play, Play 2, Punish, Think, and Wait, all uploaded between 2014 and 2015, years before Watch Data even highlighted them. Each video had tiny view numbers, like 700 to 1,000 views at most. Then, almost overnight, the whole channel got wiped. YouTube removed it, most likely for sensitive or graphic content, and just like that, there were no screenshots, there were no mirrors, there were no downloads that survived. The content surrounding this obscure channel was a total mystery. So with the channel gone, people turned to the Wayback Machine, and yeah, it confirms the channel existed and those 5 videos were actually real. But of course, no footage actually survived. If you don't know how the Wayback Machine works, it can sometimes let you watch videos, especially older or embedded ones, if the video file itself was archived along with the web page. However, it doesn't reliably archive all videos, especially on YouTube. Most of the times, the things that it archives is just the titles, a couple thumbnails, and proof that the account was actually active. And in this case, it was back in the mid-2010s. That already makes it pretty weird. This wasn't some brand new channel trying to farm attention. These were old uploads that stayed hidden for a couple of years, then got removed only after someone called them out, pointed at them, you know? One of the first strange things people noticed when they searched the name Mother8538 was a thumbnail which was a photo of a baby doll sitting on a chair in a dim room. At first glance, it's just a creepy doll pic, but then people focused on the carpet pattern in the background, and as you can see, it looks almost identical to the carpet in the Play 2 thumbnail with a lighter. Suddenly, this isn't just a random cursed image. It's like there was a whole puzzle now. Maybe this is a still frame from one of the missing videos, like, who knows. Another weird lead comes when users trace the uploader's name to a Chinese platform. There, they find two heavily edited selfies of a young woman. One looks like a normal outdoor snapshot. It has like a sunny day, the person has a casual Abercrombie tee, and the other, the other is processed to hell, to say the least. There's a red and black contrast that is making her face look almost demonic. Maybe that was the point. Nobody knows who she is. Some speculate she appears in Play 2 or one of the other uploads. Others think she was just used as stock footage, but either way, these images keep showing up linked to Mother8538, which makes them feel like part of the lost channel. Here's where it gets frustrating. At some point, people discovered that Play 2 had actually been mirrored outside of YouTube. It popped up briefly on the Chinese site Bilibili and also on another video host called XBabyX, uploaded by someone using the handle false or true. Both copies got deleted almost immediately for unsafe content, quote unquote. That kind of deletion doesn't happen for just a tame paper burning video as it looks like in the thumbnail. It suggests whatever it wasn't just someone playing with a lighter. Maybe it was something way darker. And then we come to this. There was another disturbing discovery that was made. A Reddit user posted that searching Mother8538 used to redirect to a shock site, not to a specific video, just to the homepage. The comment reads like this: by searching Mother8538 on Google, I came across the website Watch People Die. Now, I don't know if it's a link to a video or a link to the website itself, but it's still strange considering the fact that you'd have to search really messed up stuff for it to show up. Now, I won't open it since I find gore really sickening, but since the Play 2 video allegedly has self-harm, it might have something to do with it. I don't think this happens anymore, but if it's true, it does fuel the theory that these clips weren't just like a creepypasta style video or like just edgy. It might have crossed an actual line. It also explains why YouTube might have pulled the whole channel once it got attention. So let's just get into the theories and descriptions we have. Since no footage exists, we're stuck with eyewitness accounts, and they don't all agree. There are basically two main versions of what people remember seeing. There's version 1, which is basically the dark version, which is like the video opens with a gloomy filter. A girl speaks directly into the camera, saying things like, "I'm going to do it." You know, it looks like a clear reference to suicide. Then it cuts abruptly to a huge distorted screamer face that fills the screen, and then it ends. So in the second version, this version is the way lighter one, and this matches Watch Data's description more closely. A girl holds up a lighter and burns a piece of paper. On the paper are the words, "The worst is yet to come." And yeah, that's the whole video. Some people even suggest a combo of both, like paper burning first, then the girl, then the screamer. But since we don't have the original file, it's impossible to know which is true. But the thing is, I do think version 2 makes way more sense. Version 2 lines up with the thumbnail, the lighter thing, and it matches what Watch Data described. There have even been recreations of the video, and yeah, these could definitely be what the video was all along. It also feels like something you expect from an edgy creepypasta style video from 2015. But then you hit a wall, cause if it was really just a paper burning clip, then why did YouTube delete the whole channel? Why did copies get pulled off other sites? Why is the username tied to gore site results? None of that really adds up. Version A definitely could explain the takedowns better. If the video really did show a girl hinting at suicide or something and then cut to graphic imagery, then that would get removed fast. It also explains the unsafe content flags across platforms. But the problem is there's no hard proof, just claims from people who say they saw it. People have also started looking at the other one-word titles in the channel, like Punish, Think, Wait, like they're actually part of the Play 2 saga or something. If Play and Play 2 are like two parts of the same video, then maybe Punish is like torture footage, and Think is a monologue, and Wait is some kind of countdown. Yeah, I saw this type of speculation online, so I had to tell you guys. But the naming scheme for the channel did feel deliberate though. So what creeps me out about this case isn't just the missing footage, it's the ordinary details. Most lost YouTube horror is usually very theatrical with a bunch of exaggerated stuff, but here it's just a lighter, a carpet, and maybe a doll in a chair, and maybe a woman. You know, it's just completely everyday stuff, and we have super mundane information which just doesn't add up. And the fact that it only had 77 views before it vanished makes it way creepier too. It's a pretty tiny obscure upload that got spotlighted years later for pretty much no reason, and that adds to the whole mythos. It's also surprisingly recent because we have modern archiving tools, people scraping the Wayback Machine, the multi-language searches, and still no copy of the video has resurfaced. So personally, I don't think Play 2 was just a hoax. There's too much stuff like the Wayback Machine records, the mirrors on foreign sites, the sudden deletion of the entire channel, and even the shock site results. To me, it just looks like a set of short, edgy videos from 2014 to 2015, probably meant to creep people out. One of them, maybe Play 2, crossed the line into gore territory, but that's just pure speculation, by the way. And if you were to ask me, I would say this is probably not the case. I'm not gonna entertain possible gore videos on YouTube. It's probably just some creepypasta series that someone that Watch Data maybe knows started, and Watch Data just happened to shine a light on it years later, giving it new attention and bringing more attention to their video too, as this mystery is pretty speculative and it did bring attention to Watch Data's channel. Whether it was the lighter and the paper version or the suicidal girl and screamer version, we still don't know, but it wasn't just nothing. But I also wouldn't go as far to say it was actual gore or something like that. So unless someone downloaded it back in 2015 or right after Watch Data's video in 2022, the odds of this video being found are pretty slim. But they're definitely not zero. Lost media has a way of turning up when you least expect it. Sometimes someone finds an old download video on their hard drive and suddenly a lost clip is back online. If you were one of the 77 viewers, or if you downloaded random creepy videos back in the day, check out if you have this video. Even confirming which description is real would really help in the search, and there's a whole subreddit dedicated to this YouTube channel, so you could go check that out. Okay, well that's the story of Play 2 as of now. We still don't know if it was a simple creepypasta video that got blown out of proportion, or if it was something way worse. Either way, it's gone for now, and maybe that's for the best. Thanks for watching this video. If you like this breakdown, drop a comment with your thoughts on Play 2 and what do you think actually happened here. Do you think it was just a paper burning video, or do you think it was like actual gore? And also, if you guys like this lost YouTube media content, well, I have a whole iceberg on YouTube lost media coming up, so be on the watch for that. If I find anything new about this case, I'll definitely do a part 2, probably. Anyways, thanks for watching again. See you in the next video, and peace.
It's out later. Love you. Later. I might stream again in a bit. I'm just tired. I need to get some rest. Later. Peace out.
This
Love
year
you.
I've been putting out a series
No.
where I try to find the origins to some obscure and unsettling images.
Maybe later. We will look at unsettling images. Peace out later.